everybody. Recording live from somewhere.
What up? What up? Y'all ready? Y'all already know what time it is, man. It's your boy M.O.I. Misinformation, and we snuck up on y'all tonight. There were no heads up. There were no none of that shit. Y'all gotta stay ready, man. Stay ready. You ain't gotta get ready. See how I just pulled up on y'all last night and just did it live? Boom. Nah, but seriously though, I got a good friend of mine hit me up from another group I'm in on Facebook, and she asked that this young man wanted to do a presentation this evening. He just so happened to catch me while I was at my computer already, so I didn't mind doing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure it's going to be interesting tonight. I'm excited to get into it. This is one of my favorite subjects, talking about the indigenous Americans and the relationship of Africans from Africa. So I'm super excited to bring this young man on and see what he had to say about the polemic of the indigenous people of Africa and out of Africa and America. Let's tap into this chat first, though. Y'all was in this bitch quick. I mean, like 9:01 tapping in. Shaka King Black. I hope I said that right, man. Peace and love, brother. Peace and love. Pharaoh, what's going on, brother? Peace and love. Love ism. I know that's right. Peace and love. That's Robinson. Shalom. Shalaikum. Yo, Africa saying peace and light. We're saying peace and light back to you. Shadow Band, listen, man, I'll tell you something, man. Don't come here tonight acting up, Shadow Band, don't come here tonight acting up, bro. You already know how you do. Nah, I'm messing with you, man. Peace and love, brother. Chris G. Master. Chris, you know what? You're like everywhere, bro. When the live go on, you be on, man. You be on, bro, and I appreciate that. Another one is I am got always on it. Peace and love. High vibrations. I want to say peace and love to y'all for that Cash App love on Sunday. I appreciate y'all. That's something y'all don't not have to do, but we're spending our time on here. Sometimes 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? Time is money, and money is time, literally. So any type of donations you guys can slide up my way. I definitely appreciate it. It definitely helps. You know what I'm saying? It helps and it motivates. Surrender unto the Lord. What is the Lord, right? Who else we got in here? Peace and love, peace and light. Everybody, peace and man. I'm glad y'all tapping in. I know it's last minute. Peace and gratitude. Crumb TV. It's Crumb TV Network. It's Chrome TV Network. Let's make sure we get that right. It's Chrome TV Network. All right. Yes, there is Chrome TV over on Chrome TV's personal channel. But anytime we go live across all the platforms, it's the Chrome TV Network. And I think Brother Chrome can hold me honest for saying that. Speaking of that, Chrome, they get a logo made too. Logos in place. And with that said, I talked to good Brother Chrome, y'all. We got stuff coming y'all way, man, for June. I don't want to spoil it and give it away, but y'all know what happens in June. Every June, it goes down like a prom dress. You know what I'm saying? We got something special coming to y'all, so save your coins and come rock with us. You know what I'm saying? Shadow Band, okay, Erik, True Heart, and motherfucker. Oh yeah, we're in the building. So without further ado, man, I want to bring this young man on the line. Madscientist, good brother. Unmute your mic.
How you doing? Peace.
Good brother. Peace and love, man.
Yeah,
what we
peace.
got? Tonight. You are, man. You know, you screaming across like 8 platforms right now, bro. This is a lot of exposure, man. So you gotta bring the heat in your Chrome TV network. You know, so you know we don't fuck around over here. So you gotta bring the heat, man. This is not coerced. This is not rehearsed. I didn't met this brother day in my life, the first time meeting him, but I know he's about to bring the heat. Tell everybody who you are, man. How they can find you.
This is Erik the Madscientist, True Heart. True Knowledge. You can catch me at Erik True Heart on Facebook. You can catch me at Erik the Madscientist, True Knowledge. And the same on my TikTok, my Bing, my YouTube, and then you can catch me on True Heart 30 on Instagram. And just come with some info because a lot of people, they just talk just the African thing. So I'm just trying to show that it was Africans and natives here that built tribes together. Okay. Black people were here, and yes, they won't call Africans. And I'm just about to show I'm about to show that Native Americans were actually under the name Negro. Okay.
Bro said he got receipts, he got a presentation. I'm about to go and add your presentation to the screen. You go ahead and cue it up if you want to. But you got the right window open though, because I see down here you have our window open right now.
Okay. Can I just play this video real quick before we start?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me play this for y'all.
Is there any volume on? We can't hear it.
Can you hear it?
No.
Oh, hold on. I forgot when you do this, you gotta share it one by one, so you can hear the audio.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Please run that back. Like that about to be dope as hell. Look, young man,
yeah.
Run that back, man. They're like gonna be dope as hell right there. I like that.
Okay, there you go.
All right, let's get it.
Can you hear that?
Original American, I'm ruling every day. That's right. Call me the big chief. Yeah. Power 10, everybody else is beneath. All the villages, each and every tribe. I make the laws, I control if you live or die. The chiefs under me, they collect the tax. Animals scan bees while I just relax. Collecting beer and turkey, put them in the temple. Power 10, government is just that simple. I'm a power 10, I'm a power 10. I'm a power 10, I'm a Eastwood land, Indiana. Let me break it down so you understand. Man, I was very young. That's right. When I took my spouse, yeah, she cooked our meals, she built my longhouse. From jewelry to pottery, we got art. True. Even kids do it big. Yeah, we work hard, but we play too. That's right. Games just like you. Like wrestling, foot race. Yeah, we very musical. We like to sing and dance, party and clap our hands, celebrating life. I'm like a power 10.
a history lesson right here. My brother, Noble Minister, he about to speak on the history of the Asian influence in Native American culture. Why a lot of these people look Native, Asian, then some don't. That says they Native. We will speak on some of this. So,
All right, so when you talk about the Asian influence to the Native community, the reason why you have a lot of Native Americans, even the darker ones who have chinky eyes or the Asian hard hair, is because after the Chinamen built the railroad in the United States, they weren't listed as immigrants, they weren't listed as citizens. So what a lot of them did was they ran to the Native American reservations and blended in with the Native culture. That's why when you study the Native culture right now, you have like 25% of real Native culture, and then you got a lot of influence of European culture, and you got a lot of influence of Asian culture. An example, the real bright colors. That is really a more of an Asian influence, because if you study the Asian culture, when they do the dragon dance, they have all these bright and exciting colors. That's how that got mixed into the Native American culture. So what we have to understand now is that the Native American culture is one of the most diverse cultures that you could ever meet, because we have mixed and blended with so many people.
so around, you say around the rail, trying to build the railroads is when they mixed in their culture with other people's culture. So a lot of people say that the native comes from what they would say from Asia. So what would you say?
No, the native didn't come from Asia, because you got to realize the European has always been trying to discredit the natural people of this land. So of course he's going to naturally say, well, the Native American came from here. He can't openly say that the Native American is a Native American. He was already here. But what happened was the Native American has become the most infiltrated race of people. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to try to be Native or try to say they're Native to justify their being in our land.
Okay. So what are you trying to teach the people of here?
What I'm trying to teach the people is all the people that call themselves African American are not African American. If you study your history and do your bloodline, most likely you are a Native American. What happened was it's the old concept of divide and conquer. When they came here, they took the lighter Native and separated him from the darker Native, gave us all these different names, made us use last names so they could divide and conquer us. My message is to wake our people up. Stop looking to Africa. Stop looking to the Eastern Hemisphere. And it's time to look to the Western Hemisphere. Realize that this is our land, and what are we going to do to get it back?
Okay. So, do you believe that some of these people that's teaching this African stuff are Asians?
Agents?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Because just like they just found out about Sean King with the Black Lives Matter, I don't know if I heard about that revealed that he was a white man. He is not even a melanated person. If you look at the NAACP, they found out about the lady. She's not a melanated person. Any people who come out in the name of black after 1970, if you still come out and say, oh, Black Lives Matter, or this is a black group or African group, those are not your people. Those are your enemy, and most likely they are agents working for the government to suppress the true knowledge of who you are.
Okay. Any last things you want to say to the people?
I just want to say Wendy Yahoo to all my people. Subscribe to my channel, St. Jazz on YouTube. Support Melanated Minds. Support the Native Temple of Truth, because we're out here doing the work. And a shout out to the Moors.
Wasaska epo ule puniyate ufu ukle safane uke lamepo aluste alake wakina la Florida ak Mikusuki Putalachi Unihonle Yakne Sakya Elana Picha Chi changes Uchi changes Anu changes Talwa changes Tana Akapa Yatia Masifisa.
Our role in history. Because see, our history that we're a part of is one many have heard but never knew our name had been omitted from the timeline in people's memory. My tribe tried to stay humble and said one day they'll remember us, but it happened at no avail. And my people felt hurt and abandoned when other tribes that came from us overlooked us and even ignored the reality of our existence. See, my people aren't just any tribe, but because of my people and many of those who identify as African Americans exist because of our efforts and continued fight for their ancestors' survival. See, we were a part of the large and well-known slave revolt and a part of a freedom trail. Not only a part of it, but we played a pivotal role in the escaped slaves finding freedom in Florida, helping them along with our people escape slave plantations throughout South Carolina and Georgia. Together, we were able to overcome the odds and get many to freedom through a systematic and tedious journey called the Underground Railroad, saving thousands of human beings who were just looking for their God-given right to be free. And through today, with technology and digital archives and records, my people are now known for their part in this historical and monumental hidden narrative. And as great a story this is, we want our ancestors' voice to be heard. And many of you have helped us by following our page, reposting our reels, and posting along with sharing the forgotten knowledge and history of a tribe of Indians that look like America today. To see the relief on my tribe and my elders' face is priceless. For them to know that so many people interested in hearing about the Yamasee, a tribe described as Negro, who was once America's saviors at one point in time, helped out. And now it's your turn. Ready to help the Yamasee Indian tribe? Repost this video, share, and support us by following the link in our bio. We can reawaken history, one social account at a time. Shoot me a DM or drop your email in the question or comment box below.
American Aborigines. There were tribes that were already here. And unfortunately, most people still believe that all Blacks came from the ships from Africa. So let's talk about some of those statistics. According to PBS.org, only 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped from Africa, but only 10.7 million actually survived. And of that 10.7 million, 388,000 came to North America, and the rest were distributed to South America and the Caribbean. But the first people that were here were the American Aborigines. According to Indigenous and Americans.com, the American Aborigines owned 1 million square miles worth of land in the Louisiana Territory, southeastern region of Florida, and the colony of California. In many areas of America, Black nations existed way before Christopher Columbus even arrived. Those lands were rightfully the American Aborigines before they were stolen and given to the white settlers.
It started. Today is going to be about the different laws and the different things that change our identities and the different ways that the indigenous people lost their land and things along those lines. Let's go ahead and get started. Number 8. Most reservation Indians were carefully selected by the U.S. government to occupy reservations when reservations were being established. And underneath you have the Dawes Act, which was also known as the General Allotment Act of 1887, and it has a lot to do with how we lost our land. I'm going to come back to that. Moving right along, number 9, the U.S. government, for the most part, selected pale-skinned Indians or Hollywood version of Indians to occupy U.S. government-established reservations. And in the picture, you can see they showed a picture of the real Indian, and then they showed you the portrait somebody painted that makes him look a whole lot lighter than he actually is. All right, moving on. Number 10. The U.S. government selected a certain physiological type of native, aka Indian, to promote to the world as this is a real Indian, as well as this is how a real Indian looks. And again, here's a depiction, a cover of a book. The original, the Indian's very, very, very dark. You can't even see his face. And the remake, not so much. All right. Number 11. The dark-skinned natives, indigenous to the Western Hemisphere, aka Indians, were reclassified during the 17 and 1800s as Negroes and colors. And what you're looking at underneath it is a law from colonial Virginia. And I'm going to touch into that a little deeper in a little bit. Okay? Number 12. Certain dark-skinned natives were allowed to settle on reservations with pale-skinned natives. Most were not. And what you're looking at is a map of all the different tribes and their territories and all the different areas. That's, of course, all of it was Indian land at first. And then, as time progressed, we know how it turned out. All right. Number 13. Pale-skinned natives came about as a result of the original dark-skinned natives breeding with pale-skinned Europeans. A light-skinned native born from this union would again breed with the pale-skinned European.
What's up, man? You know what? I just do so much research, bro. I forgot I had a younger picture of Chief Lone Wolf. How you try to say that that was the younger version of him? Yeah.
Your nose is straight right here. How can you nose moving straight? Copper color skin. Copper is just not your light.
Oh, yeah, we'll stop that. All right. Can you hear me?
So listen, that was pretty freaking interesting, especially the young man rapping in the beginning. Before going further, we got Crip Jesus in the goddamn building. Crip Jesus checking in.
Peace, man.
It's gonna
Excuse
be
my
topic.
tardiness. You invited me out of nowhere. I had to hop in. I said, "Oh yes." I seen the topic.
Oh,
I was gonna say, man, I'm a little busy right now. I had to hop up.
Nah, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining in last minute, man. But brother,
Yeah, peace to the brother, Madscientist, man. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, brother. You just presented a lot of great information, and you just, I think, set the stage for what we hope that you can break down and explain, because I can definitely add value to a lot of that stuff we just went through, man. So please jump right into it.
Okay, we can build. Yeah. But of course, I'm gonna let everybody know that I'm a part. My family bloodline is a part of the Powhatan Nation, the Pamunkey, the Chickahominy, and Matsapani. I'm in Virginia. Not only do we study the indigenous, I study African history too. So I went to all the slave trails. I went to Jamestown. I did field work to make sure that I bring the right information. So I'm gonna show some stuff, and I'm gonna show some stuff from Jamestown I got too that why I say what I claim. So let's get to it. Many of us were already here in the indigenous and African relationship, right? So okay. Y'all check this book out. I'm just showing this book. This is just the origin, the book, Black Indian slave narrative. So you can go to the slave narrative. They have hundreds and hundreds of slave narratives of slaves that they interviewed in 1930. That was actually the end of the slaves. So they were speaking on how slavery was. You got people that tell you they was on Indian territory. They was in the Indian tribes and was kidnapped. Okay. So, and these people had maybe like Indian father, a black mother, and Indian father. So they was a part of these nations that got together, because a lot of slaves ran into the native tribes and they created a lot of these other tribes. A lot of these tribes that existed now are not the original names of the tribes, and the reservations are many tribal people that actually gave up and gave up a lot of their land to get that little bit of land that they could stay on. Okay. Go to the Black Wall Street Indian land grab. They'll show you that the European actually took the land from the Indians and then sold it to the to them people to where they made the Black Wall Street. All right. So all right. It's in education. The classical Black Indians has been updated and reissued. The startling and readable work of People's History chronicles both the attempts to keep Black people and Indians divided in Americas and their efforts to unite. As one French colonial document stated, between the races we cannot dig too deep a gulf. But the digging was not always successful, and much of the drama of Cat's book is found in the inspiring instance of Black Indian unity as in the Seminole Wars. And what I'm gonna show people is when you go, like I told people before, when you go to Africa, everybody
Hold on,
ain't the
bro.
same. Uh-huh.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Your presentation is not.
Oh man, I hate when I have. I just picked that one thing. It's keep on. Let me go back.
No, you going in.
Yeah. My bad. I just
We
ain't
just want to see what you seeing, so we can follow
Yeah.
along. You feel me?
All right.
And then
Get out this.
while you pulling that up, I do want to add value to and it's something I always encourage people to do is to study the history. Why people know so much about African history and know very little about history over here. They can tell you about the pyramids, some of the pyramids in Egypt, and tell you about the Tekken and the obelisk and all this stuff, but they can't tell you what a totem pole is. They can't even tell you what's the point of a totem pole or any of the ceremonious head dress, anything we have going on in America. So I think what you're doing is very important. There we go. Boom. There we go. All right. Now we in it. Let's get it.
All right. Well, let me read that again. The classical book Indians has been updated and reissued. The style and readable work of People's History chronicles both the attempts to keep Black people and Indian divided into the Americas and their efforts to unite as a one French colonial document stated between the races we cannot dig too deep a gulf. But the digging was not always successful, and much of the drama of Cat's book is found in the inspiring instance of Black Indian unity as the Seminole Wars. Now, this is what I'd tell people, right? Just like when you go to Africa again, when you go to ancient times, you go to Samaria. Samaria was not just one people; it was actually five different groups of people, and then you had the Semitic people come in and help create the Sumerian nation. When you talk about Kemet, it was different tribes that helped to create that nation. When you talk about Canaan, they had 7 tribes, and then you to create Canaan. So when they say Canaan, it was just speaking of the land, but it was speaking of individual people, right? So what I'm saying is, when you come to America, everybody was not the same. And it's foolish to think that all these tribes all looked alike. It was from the same place, but Africa, the Middle East, and Europe is not the same. And this is the problem that we got of miseducation from the Europeans, right? So a lot of Africans did mix in with the Asian-looking Indian, you know what I mean, and called it tribes. And then you had Black Indians, which is not Africans, was over here too, right? That we get our features from, that we are, you know what I'm saying, because. And then you have people who are. Then you have us. All of, most of it. They mixed us in the on the plantations, the Africans and the natives, and they called us mulattoes. You see what I'm saying? And this isn't documented in Virginia. But let me go to the next one. This filmmuseum.org. Robert Q. Oh, this the authors. Robert Q. Collins, PhD, a 4-field trained anthropologist, and is associated professor of American Indian Studies at San Francisco State University. Dr. Collins also holds an MA and PhD in anthropology and from UCLA, using a person-centered ethnographic approach. His research explores in American Indian culture, changes the African and Native American interactions in North, Central, and South America. He is also African American and Chickasaw descent. So not only does he have a PhD and he's studying this stuff, he also is African and a Chickasaw descent. Okay, so Monica Bolter is a Chicago-based visual artist, copy editor, and journalist. She is Potawatomi, African American, and German. Her artwork combines traditional techniques with digital coloring and create expressive characters and tell their diverse stories. Passionate about storytelling through art and writing, she advocates for cultural representation in any project she undertakes. Rickert, these got weird names, has been writing for online publications related to Native American issues and tribally owned businesses. Under the pen name White Pigeon, her family name. Recently, she finished illustrating and designing children books for Cultural Story and Smiles Creative. All right, so there's the two. All right, fieldmuseum.org. The relevance of Native American to Black history. Y'all gotta get excuse me, I gotta cut your access on trying to pronounce each word because we the slang we you know what I mean. So fieldmuseum.org. A primary focus on Black History Month is on individuals of African descent, but as African American physical anthropologist Montegi Cobb reminds us, African Americans descend from Native Americans as well. The authors of this post are involved in creating the future Native North American Hall at the Field Museum. Robert Keith Collins, PhD, is a member of the Native Hall adversary committee. Monica Balcher is a visual artist whose work will be part of the expedition here. They write about shared African American, Native American history. You can also hear more from the authors on the episode of Exhibiting Kinship podcast with Felicia Garcia and Miranda Roberts. So these people are trying to make a museum that's speaking on this because a lot of the stuff has got watered down, and we were speaking on. I was speaking on another show earlier when I was telling people that we had to be careful because they actually took a people and moved them, and they could actually take another people and put them there, and then say they were the original people. And when you go to Australia and places like that, they also call the thing called whitewashing you out with the Spaniards used to do. They used to whitewash you out, and that's why when we talk about the European, we can't just talk about the one like they all came as one. They actually came and attacked different ways. Like the Spaniards braided you out, and then the British tried to destroy your tribe through genocide, murder. You know what I'm saying? So let's get to the next. And share slavery. Okay. Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. So, Craig, I want to get you to chime in on a little bit of this information. What say ye to the idea that there are a batch of individuals that are from America originally, and then there's another batch of individuals from Africa, and at some point they all amalgamated, so they all have the same kinship of blood, similarities of culture. What say you to that?
Say it again. You saying that?
No, what I was asking, what do you think of the ideology of there are two separate groups of individuals? There is the indigenous Americans, and then there are the indigenous Africans, and then at some point they came together and amalgamated or got together and produced another breed of people. What do you
said there's indigenous African and indigenous American?
Yeah. Are they the same people or different people? That's what my question is.
You're saying the people that's indigenous to Africa would have to be from the land of Africa, and the people indigenous to America have to be from the land of America.
So you think they're two different people? My question is, they're two different people, or are they the same people?
You saying as far as which group? As far as with Black people?
Yeah, are they the same people collectively with different cultures and different feathers, or is this totally different people?
Well, no. Well, Black people are people that don't know who they are, so they identify with like a color or whatever. So those are two different people. Like that's three different people. People that are indigenous that recognize themselves as indigenous to here. People who recognize themselves as indigenous to Africa, and people who recognize themselves as Black, which don't recognize themselves as either.
True.
Black person not going to say they're indigenous to here. The Black person not going to say they're indigenous to Africa neither.
Yeah,
they're just going to say they're indigenous to slavery.
True. I just want to kind of get your intake on it. But
from my understanding, most hold on. Well, you have a divide. So you have the Black bourgeois who would come and say, well, I've been to college and I've been educated and I've done this and I've known that, or whatever school of thought, and I know the answer. And amongst that collective, which there is a consensus. They have a black caucus and all that. So the people who push black, now the people who push black, the color, you meet all type of different groups. You meet religious groups, you meet people that's just there, whatever. But what's written in the history books for people that claim black is African slavery. You know what I mean? Now, people I meet that say, well, that's not my history, I'm from here, they don't push black. You feel what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, that's where the limbo comes. You know what I mean? It's like black people is one group of people, indigenous people to America is another group of people, indigenous to Africa is another group of people. You know?
Okay, I see what you're saying. That's what you're saying. I mean, yeah. I was struggling at first, but now I see what you're saying. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I'm definitely going to let the brother continue his bit, but I want the audience to pay attention to the words and the terminologies, because you're going to see native, then you're going to see indigenous, then you're going to see this, you're going to see that. Let's pay attention to the terminologies that they're giving these individuals, and then let's see if we can, towards the end, make some sense of it. Continue.
Yeah, and we actually kind of make a mistake by doing that the same way we do Africa and stuff like that, because when we say that one name, we're trying to determine that all these people are under one nation when they actually just under different tribes. You know what I mean? But when at modern times we start calling them natives and indigenous, we just say that to be a shortened, but really we go by, like I say, I'm a Powhatan, Powhatan nation, Monkey tribe, so. All right. In share of slavery, enslaved Africans and enslaved Native Americans intermarried with one another because their marriages were usually not considered legitimate by law. Their children were slaves like their parents and considered illegitimate. Among the Cherokee, Chickasaws, Creeks, and Seminoles, Africans were enslaved by Native Americans. Now, this is the problem that I have too, because they'll make it see how slick they I ain't even gonna say slick because these are the people that, but it's so slick that they don't understand what they're saying when they say this, when they say African, Native American, and Africans. No, the 5 civilized tribes had slaves. Not all natives, okay? Just like African had slaves and they sold them and all that stuff. So let's not just go into like at all natives so Africans. No. So Africans were enslaved by natives. Children of enslaved African women and Native American slave owners were also considered legitimate. Native Americans, particularly those of blended African ancestry, occasionally found themselves kidnapped into slavery. Early colonists, like later citizens of the United States, enslaved African and Native people as maids, butlers, blacksmiths, field hands for the homes and plantations of English, French, Spanish colonists. From their contacts, love and marriages frequently formed. So they're showing that yes, some Indian tribes had slaves, and they they mixed in with them, and like later on, like I told you, they was called mulattoes, and then you have slaves that ran and mixed in with Native Americans. So this is how history goes. History is not just one way. Like people would think slavery was one way, but you have to go to every single plantation and see what they did on the plantation to really talk about what happened in slavery. You can't go off of one trace plantation and base it off and base the whole history off of that. And that's how history is supposed to go. All right. Black Witch of Salem. The most notable marriage between an enslaved African and enslaved Native American from early U.S. history was between John Indian and his wife, Tituba. Little is known about John Indian except that he was a Spanish Indian. The Salem witch trials made Tituba famous, called the Black Witch of Salem. Tituba was the first woman accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials. Speculations about her ancestry have ranged from half African and half Native American from the U.S. to the Caribbean Native American from Barbados. She is recognized in witchcraft trial documents as an Indian woman servant. Okay.
Yeah, that's called a bruja.
Yeah.
So what that is brujeria. See, a lot of people that call themselves black don't know what they is. So when you go back to study our Moorish history, a lot of what we call black goes back to Spain in Portugal, what they call it now, when we call it Andalusia. So back then you had the women, how you see them all through the Spanish lands with their heads wrapped in, you know, Santeria, brujeria, all that. So yeah, this is just an example of that. So when you get to the north and they wipe you clean slate of your history, they call it witch. You feel what I'm saying? That's an English word derived from wise. These are the wise women. You feel what I'm saying?
And I also want to point out the fact that you're going to find a lot of cities called Salam, or what y'all pronouncing as Salem. It's really Salam. These cities of Salam, they gathered these so-called black-haired witches and put them in these cities because remember that at the time of the colonies, 13 colonies and establishment of so-called Americas, they didn't have law. There was no law on the land at all, right? So a lot of these corporations that were setting up these trusts and deeds and these charters to formulate Pennsylvania and the Virginia Company, all this kind of stuff, the individuals that they found like her, they would relocate them into cities or municipalities called Salem, and they had to invoke what was called Sharif law on these individuals because they couldn't put their law on them. Just like now, if an indigenous person go to court or to a tribunal, the jurisdiction won't match up to the individual person. If you are claiming your true nationality, they can't put their jurisdiction over on you. So much like this, they could invoke the jurisdiction on these individuals. They call them witches. So what happened was they had to put what's called Sharif law on them, or the sheriff. And the sheriff to this day monitors the county, not the city, but the county. And the word county means conquered land. So once they conquered the land, calling it a county, they would take these individuals like her, put her in these counties called Salam or Salem. We call it that Salam because they were all Muslims, and they had to invoke what's called Sharif law over on these individuals. So I just want to add that tidbit to the word Salem or Salam. Continue, please. This is good.
Yeah, that's real right there.
And I'm just like, I'm from Virginia, so I'm letting warn the other states. They already passed a law to take out CRT, what is called critical race theory. It's showing the systematic racism in America, and they already got that out. They're trying to vote to take the Native American history out, and they're trying to add black figures out of history, including Martin Luther King. So we just got to stop. We got to understand that this is a war of education and history that they're trying to take from us. All right.
I want to say this right quick before we continue, because I got to be obedient to the spirits now. We have to understand, family, that there is Black history. Black history starts in America around the time that the Mayflower got here and the other ships got here. Black history has a start date in America about the mid 1700s. Anything that people with dark color skin in the Americas did anything that began Black history. Like, you can't really get into our ancient history, don't have a timeline. So there is a such thing as Black history. And the point I'm making is, if they want to remove Black history from the schools, whatever the case is, who cares? And I'm saying this because, listen now, you're not Black anyway. It was a made-up construct. So George Washington Carver and Harriet Tubman and all those individuals, that's Black history. That's a created history for a new people, for a created people. If you understand who you truly are, like the brother's teaching you right now, your indigenous ancestry, your history goes way beyond before a white person got here. White people did this in order to construct a history. They had to make a history of people. They had to make y'all believe y'all was Black. So they had to give you a history. They had to tell you about people like Harriet Tubman, who, I'm going to do a lie about Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was the first person that, like, the labor force. She was stealing people off plantation and giving them to Mr. Brown to work for them. So anyway, people like Harriet Tubman, and I'm not going to say Nat Turner, because Nat Turner was an Indian chief out of Virginia. He was the last Indian chief out of Virginia. So people like that, they had to construct a history for you so-called Black people to feel like you was a part of something. So the fact they want to take it out of the schools, it shouldn't even bother you, first of all, because you're not Black. It shouldn't bother you. But the fact it's bothering you, that means you have some type of ties to thinking that you are Black. And that's why they're removing Black history.
Well, I mean, but I think that goes into like me, for example. I'm just newly getting into the nationality side of understanding, right? And I say that to say, when I was black this, black that, I still meant it in the sense of those I identify with, those that look like me, those that without me even reading one book, I look at them and I know they're the same thing as me. You know what I mean? It's just a lack of the knowledge of understanding the deeper. You feel me? So the complaint is that the truth of the reality is, now that we're not back in the day and we have integrated in and our school systems are shared and our information is shared, I think it goes to a broader conversation of what do we do about it? Because it has to be something in there that looks like this. Our kids can't just go there and not see anything. You know what I mean? So now it's the conversation of, do we leave them in there? What should we be telling this at home? You know what I mean? Does the Chinese dude have his idol in the book? Do his parents teach him at home? Like, is it us? You feel me? Like, it's a bigger conversation.
Listen, we do exactly what the good brother Umar Johnson was trying to do. We start our own schools. We can't be sitting here complaining about what they're teaching in their schools. They want to take Black history out and tell you that this person is Indian with the mulatto, with the Asian eyes, and that's Indian. Then guess what? God damn it, that's gonna be an Indian in their school. Until you open your own school, teach your own curriculum. We got to stop complaining and stop. Man, like people teaching our kids, they want to teach critical race theory. It's their schools. It's their schools. It's their curriculum. Exactly. It's their jurisdiction. So be quiet. Not you, bro, but just people, period.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Be quiet and open your own school. What the brother is showing us right now can be taught online. Like, we can have an online academy right now. We're giving it away free on YouTube for these people. We can have people actually sign up and make it a curriculum. It's easy. I wrote my own curriculum for my school, Chefpreneur Academy. It's not that hard. Yeah. Madscientist can be the history teacher for all things Indigenous American, and there'll be a 2-hour course. You sit your butt down. You listen to what he got to say on the lecture. You create an examination or a test. They take the test and examination. They keep doing it all the way through 12th grade. And by the time they come out of high school, they'll have so much indoctrination of who they really are to where the word Black will be laughable to them at that point. And what you said, it does start at home. My children get a double dose. They go to school, to shul, I taught them, which means hell. They go learn that part of it. But at home, me and my mom always reinforce, all right, yeah, that sounds good, but here's the real truth. Like my son today actually has to do a Black History project. He's talking about, he don't know who he want to do. He's going to do Harriet Tubman. It's one of the go-tos. Harriet Tubman is a go-to. And George Washington Carver is a go-to. I'm like, nah, let's do Mansa Musa. When you go to class, do this report, let's fuck the whole class up. And just put them.
But that's not Black. That's before the Mayflower.
No, but see what I'm saying is we gonna teach them. We gonna put it in the school for them. We're not gonna ask for. See
that this is the perfect place to start the conversation, restart it, because is that Africa or America? You get what I'm saying?
The point I'm making
is from Africa.
We're gonna introduce them to everybody on the planet that had any influence besides a goddamn Harriet Tubman. Before Harriet Tubman was thought of, we were already doing great things. And unfortunately, we don't have. Spencer Johnson is one now. He might do Spencer Johnson. He might do him now. He might do Nat Turner. He might do somebody who's already here. To your point, he might do a Black Indian chief that was already here and just fuck the whole class up because they never heard of him before. My point is, unless we change the narrative, bro, we're gonna continue to be at odds with it. Go ahead, man.
I agree with you, and that's why I was telling. That's why I was explaining. That's why I was telling people, because if we don't start teaching our kids at home and stuff, we ain't gonna have no history. That's what I'm trying to tell people. That's why they taking all this out. So and that's cool, and I agree with you saying. But I'm telling people, if we don't start teaching our kids ourselves and at home, we ain't gonna be able to teach them nothing, especially in my state, because they're taking all that stuff out. So now they're gonna even be more miseducated, even though they was miseducated from this. You know, this history is not all the way true. But now they take all that out. All they gonna know is European history. So we got to get to a point we got to teach our kids. But this Spence Johnson Choctaw, my bad. It is important to remember that enslaved Africans and enslaved Native Americans remembered their lived experiences and how it impacted their families. Mr. Spence Johnson recalled his experience of slavery in 1937. He told the following to the Works Process Association field worker Miss Ada Davis. Stella done stole me and my mama out the Choctaw Nation
I remember. I tell somebody this the other day. I remember growing up because I'm 40, but older. But I remember growing up when somebody would whoop your butt if you called them an African booty scratcher. But at the same time, you always hear grandma, you got Indian in your family. Now, over 20, 30 years, you stop hearing that. But I remember growing up as a small boy, you would hear it's Indian in your family. Not that there was Indian in your family. The Indians is your damn family. Like, that is your family. You know what I'm saying? And I think as time went on, we began to make jokes about it. He ain't no damn Cherokee. He drive a Cherokee. We began to joke about it, not knowing that there was really jewels in grandma and auntie and great grandma telling you that you do have Indian in your family. You know what I'm saying? And you're not from Africa. And we knew we were from Africa because you call me African booty scratch, I'm gonna punch you in the eye because we're not from Africa. Like,
I think this goes back to the No, I think this goes back to the bigger conversation of what you were saying earlier. Like that's where we meet in the middle at where I was saying, because you're saying like the black history is like you're not black anyway. So it's like we've gotten so comfortable with taking what they give it and replacing grandma and grandpa's information that now we've lost sight of everything. So that's like, I can use myself for example. So my grandfather, you know what I'm saying? He's from Louisiana. He knew exactly what we were. But I didn't figure it out till I was 30 something, even though I know my father and this is his father. It's like going to enough schools, watching enough documentaries, watching enough movies, reading enough books, talking to enough dudes over enough deep conversations, getting validated and certified for this information, but still ignoring what my grandfather said because he may not have all the big words, but you don't need all the big words when you're talking nationality. It's simple. You're this, you're that. For example, I know a woman who she looked up her blood and all that, right? So she found on her father's side that they were originally from Portugal. Okay, cool, whatever, European, whatever. Which is not even, we can get into that because these people were not white. They were from Portugal though. So that's a whole nother conversation though, about Europe though. But on her mother's side, it was just what we call black. Now this goes to what M.O.I is saying. Her grandmother, not her mother. This is a generational thing. This is exactly what he said. There was a time where this was spoken all day. So her grandmother said, we are Cherokee. Her mother didn't say none of that. We black, I'm black and I'm proud. I wear my afro and my pumps and you know, all that. Hippity hop and all that. So for whatever reason, through the time, even her mother knowing that, just like my father knew, oh yeah, we're Creole, Louisiana, it just, in their mind, it was more important to infuse what the media was pushing in Living Color, Soul Train, you know what I mean? I could keep going and going, not saying that those things meant any harm, but it goes to show that the program that M.O.I is talking about. Over that time, even our own parents stopped talking about what their parents were talking to us about. Our own grandparents, right? And it gets to a point where I did an interview and I talked about it. So it just made her go look her blood again on her mother's side. So she already knew the name and she already knew what her grandmother said. But now that she took what I was saying about the Cherokee and her denying it out of self-ignorance and self-hate, she went and looked up a deed. She's like, man, I know this woman was in slavery. I'm finna show his ass. She looked up the deed. She found the deed or whatever it is that they got to prove the slavery, right? So their ancestor on the mother's side was a Cherokee native who was enslaved by free black people. It said Negro slave owners. She showed it to me.
Oh yeah.
It's not even the whole white black story everybody wants to hit it with. It's not even all that simple. A lot of this story is mixed up because of our own self-hatred. We refuse to see ourselves as the conqueror. We refuse to see ourselves as coming from Spain or Portugal and being a conquistador. But if we understand a lot of those people that got converted to Catholicism back then, you know what I'm saying? When it's dealing with melanated, we were all over the place. You know, we had many nationalities, you know.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's why I tell people, like, because we always talk about the slave trade that came over here, you know, that mostly went to Brazil. Brazil has the biggest, but they also took people from here and took them over there. You see what I'm saying? They took us to Europe, took us to Africa, they took us down to South America. They did this for animals, they did this for food. You see what I'm saying? So they did a lot of this stuff. Like I said, they changed the names. They called us Negro. They did this and mixed us in and called us Negro. And, you know, they did a lot. There's a lot of stuff they did. And when they took us out, they put other people in. Like they got them Siberians talking about these native Siberians. I remember when they first were saying they was Mongols. Then I remember when they said they were Jews. Then I remember now they saying they come from Siberia. And when you hear the story of how Siberians, the chief, said he came over here, he's talking about it was an Iceland and it was a horn sticking out the ground, and and one of the children wanted it, so they tried to grab it, and then it split the ice, and the southern and people on the northern side stayed, and the people on the southern side came to the American side. Now that is a mythical story. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm gonna show a couple of things, and I promise I'm gonna let you get back to what you were doing, bro. But what you're talking about is just so powerful, man. And it's so many different variations to this thing. I want to show y'all something on my page right here on my Instagram, Minister Informing. What you're looking at right here, these individuals right here are part of what's called the Ho-Shin tribe. I'm sorry. Ho-Shin was the tribal leader. They come from what's called the Ming Dynasty, M-I-N-G. These were part of the individuals that came over on the Bering Straits. If you don't know what the Bering Straits is, like to this day, literally Alaska and Russia touch. You can walk from Russia to Alaska, so don't get it twisted and thinking that Russia's on the other side of the world. Russia's right now back there in California, up north. It's right there. It's damn near touching. Not anymore because the ice bridge has melted, but you can get from Russia to Alaska in under 6 hours. No problem at all. Real close. These individuals walked over. These are Mongolians. Mongolians come from what's called the Pecan man. From the Pecan man, you have the Java man. Now I'm going back on y'all. I'm not going to deal with this white black terminology BS no more because there wasn't such thing as white people or Caucasians. Okay, let's just stop with the semantics with the word. Because if you get technical, Moors are white. Because a white person, anybody from North Africa, Moors, any Moor that converted from Islam to Christianity is called a Morisco Moor. This is what it is. That's why in the Circle 7, it tells you, I'm sorry, the 101s, it tells you that white means God and God means conquer the land because the word white is superior to the word black. Anyway, these individuals right here came over on the Bering Straits and they amalgamated with the Olmec. And once they amalgamated with the Olmec, they produced the Toltec. And the Toltec produced the Mextec. And the Mextec produced the Incans, then the Mayans, and so on and so forth. This is the west coast of America, not the east coast. Madscientist is giving you the east coast people. Those are the Pamunkey. Those are the Wampanoag. Those are the Yamacraw. Those are the Yamansi. Those are later the Seminoles, which was an amalgamated people. The Cherokee is not even a real tribe. So stop saying Cherokee. It's a made-up tribe. And you can't find your tribe by no spit or no blood. That's stupid. Y'all retarded for believing that, respectfully. Can't find what tribe you belong to off no spit or no blood. You were welcome into a tribe, and you amalgamated with that tribe. And you had similar shared values with their tribes. You don't say, when people talk about the Native Americans and Black people and Africans, they rarely talk about the customs. They rarely talk about the traditions. They rarely talk about the different kind of feathers, whether it's a turkey feather or eagle feather. Because turkeys were synonymous on the East Coast at the West Coast. They rarely show y'all the real stuff. about what separates the different tribes, right? So these people amalgamated and mixed. That's why on the West Coast, the Teepee Indians got the slanted eyes. The brother was explaining about the railroad. The railroad came in the 1800s. That was part of it. That was part of it. But prior to the railroad coming, these individuals had already been here about 1,000 years prior to the railroad even being thought of being built across America. So that's why you get the Teepee Indians. Those are the Lakota, the Dakota, the Navajo, the people who step in what's called Wampegs. And they got teepees, right? Closer to like Mexico, New Mexico, Nevada, that area. They had to move with the buffalo. You come over to the East Coast, us, the darker skinned individual he's mentioning right now, like the Oshitush or the Wichita. They didn't sleep in no teepees. They built pyramids and mounds. We've been here. If you look up what's called the Woodland period, I'll show you in a second, the Woodland period. You had the Woodland period, which predates any conversation we're having right now of individuals. And the Woodland period is where they come up out of Louisiana, Florida, parts of Mississippi and Alabama along the Mississippi River, and they're part of what's called the Arawak. And the Arawak amalgamated with the Olmec and gave you what's called the Raccoon people, which later became the Yamakra people and the Yamansi people. So just want to show y'all the variations and the differences of how people look. These are the people you see on the West Coast right here. You see that? That's the West Coast Native Americans, and they're called Native Americans. Native Americans. If you understood what the word native means versus the word indigenous, and I don't mean aboriginal, because ab means away from the original. That's what the word ab means. Aborigine is a whole other word than aboriginal. That's how they get people caught up thinking you're a Native American. Native American would never. That's a whole new title that was given to these individual Mongoloids, the Mongolians who amalgamated with the indigenous people. The indigenous people being since the Woodland period. Nobody talks about the Woodland period when it comes to talking about Native Americans or so-called Indians, because they don't know about the Woodland period. Okay, so we have to be right and exact and stop thinking that.
I gotta add some though, because there's a reason for that confusion. Now, a lot of the people who claim black, the reason why the word Cherokee gets passed around a lot is for a reason. It was made up later on, but that comes from a real tribe. So prior to the Mayflower, prior to black, prior to America, and prior to all those names, the people you're talking about, the people I am, the people who look like me, originated in North and South Carolina. So the Gullah people were there, Virginia as well. So in 1521, no, hold on, I'm not done. And so in 1521, the Spanish kidnapped a man who they named Francisco Chicora. So that's where the Chicora begins. You feel what I'm saying? Prior to the Mayflower. So he's the first of the Chicora. They had named South Carolina Chicora after that. You feel what I'm saying? So that's like in Latin with the on the end. So it comes from the Shakur. So though when they kidnapped him, he's like the first. That's 1521. They took him to Spain. They took him to Europe. Well, it wasn't Spain yet then, but they took him to Europe, to the Iberian Peninsula. That's the beginning of the Indian slave trade.
And I don't doubt that. The Geechee Gullah people, from my understanding, are Africans who came here a long time ago, and they just settled on the coastal of South Carolina, and they just stayed there, and they've been there for a couple hundred years.
No, I'm just saying within them was the Shakur. That's where the Shakura comes from, and that's what they took later. I'm agreeing with you. The made-up tribe of Cherokee. That's where it comes from. Yeah. To make a lie has to start with the truth, right? You gotta take a truth and twist it to make a lie.
For sure. This is my great grandmother, Chickasaw. That's me, because I am what my forefathers were without contradiction. So I already know what time it is. But from doing this study right here, it led me to study and understand that there are different variations of individuals that we're talking about. And I want the people to understand. Just like in Africa, for example, I'm past the mic. In Africa, if you go to Ghana or if you go to Nigeria and then you go over to Ethiopia, you're going to see two totally different people, continent. And they're both African. So how is it that the African can vary huge in culture, how they look? They ain't got the same language. They're the same rock for thousands of years. They look different, they talk different, they eat different, never been anywhere else. Ethiopians and you have Nigerians, same rock. You have Congolese people, you have Egyptians, the old Egyptians, not these invaders. But they've never been anywhere but Africa, and they talk different, they look different, they don't even sound the same, none of that stuff. So why can't we put it in our mind that even in the great state of North America, you had people on the West Coast, people on the East Coast, even though they were both from the island of America, they looked different, they talked different, they spoke different, they did different things. The people on the East Coast had the woolly hair and the wide nose and the thick lips. They had that. On the West Coast, not so much. Not so much on the West Coast. So we have to put in our mind that we keep looking off our front porch to Africa to make the comparison, right? You got people in Australia that are not from Africa, not by blood or spit. What do you do with them people? So if they cannot be from Africa and there are Aborigine, what about the people from the island of Mu who've been here before there was an African being thought of? Europeans give you that story that we came out of Africa. That way they can tie themselves into history. Because if you take history real quick and start life on the island of Mu. White people won't even come into existence as 60 something plus million years. They won't even come into existence at all. Dr. Leakey gave you that idea that we came out of Africa. And Robert Boaz created African history, the idea that we come out of Africa. So while we're struggling with this, remain loyal to people that look like us, everybody your skin ain't your kin, no way. So we struggle with remaining loyal to Africa for whatever reason, because it's been pumped in our brains for so long. And we are failing to identify ourselves with people who look like us, who are right here in our front porch. They don't teach you about people over here at all. And when brothers like Madscientist pull up information, try to show you that, no, these are real people who actually live here for real. They've never been anywhere else. And then when they show you pictures like this right here, showing you that this was the first mascot of the Cleveland Indians, because this is who the Indians are in America, it rattles the brain a little bit. And then you want to talk about spit and blood and all this other kind of stuff. You were never identified by spit and blood for tribal affiliation. So y'all have to stop saying that. Y'all have to get that out of your head that you identified. I can take a pen and poke your finger and put your blood on a microscope, and under the microscope, it's gonna say Wichita. What are y'all talking about? I'm gonna take a Q-tip and roll around your mouth and look at the Q-tip and tell you the Comanche. That's a lie. Y'all gotta stop believing everything that they tell y'all. Oh, have you did the blood test yet? You can't tell tribe by blood. Because just like there are tribes we don't even know about, bro. There are tribes that are gone that we'll never know about. You could be part of that tribe. But because we only know about the 7 civilized tribes, okay, 5 civilized tribes, and then there's others who they would not give charters to or attention to. We only know about a handful of tribes. That's all we know about. So the tribes, even the brother are naming, they're the same tribes that we're used to hearing. And they're not triggering any remembrance until you say Oshitush or Wichita. And Wichita should be the only tribe, not the only one, the biggest tribe that we should be studying. Because the Wichita tribe was an amalgamated tribe in Louisiana of several other tribes that were down there. Okay? All right, I'm passing the mic. Go ahead, brother. Let me put your thing back on. My bad. It's on you, Mad Science. Mute my mic. Be quiet now.
Yeah. I was saying I agree with what you were saying. That was great. That was a great info. You know what I'm saying? That's the things I like, man. I like building. So when you want to cut in and anything, just let me know. You know, it don't bother me. I like it. You know, I might learn some stuff from you. You learn some stuff from me. That's how it's supposed to go, man.
For sure.
It is important to know that these interactions and contributions of descendants and relevance of Native Americans to Black history continues. As of 2010 consensus, there were 182,494 individuals of African American, Native American, Alaskan Native, descendant and 112,207 individuals are African American, Native American, and Alaskan Native and white descendant. The relevance of Native American to Black history can be seen in the shared kinship created from shared lived experiences with slavery and citizenship within sovereign Native American nations. As you continue exploring this exciting history and suggested readings, it is hoped that you will also keep an eye out for the new Native Hall at the field. So, like I said, they're making a new museum. It's going to be showing a lot of this stuff. This is what I want to show. And the reason when people are saying, why are you talking about the African and Native American history? Because a lot of these people would make you think that when they came over here off the boat, they just stayed, like they stayed Africans. No, they mixed in. They became people called mulattoes. They built tribes together, and they're not trying to go back to Africa, and they're not considering themselves Africans. Okay, because they feel like they were here, they built themselves with this tribe, and they're a part of this tribe. And that's just only for the African people who are trying to just act like, oh, everybody came off a boat when everybody didn't. You know what I'm saying? Act like everybody is still pushing this Africa. The African stuff came from a lot of trickery. That's all I'm gonna say. But this is Henrico. This is the county I'm from. Now this is where I tell people how they whitewash and stuff. Now you see this? This is our sister right here. Then it become what? The red woman. Then it what? Look at this. See this? This is what I'm saying. They whitewash a lot of stuff. And this is how they trick us, just through the images. So now when you see somebody and they say, oh, I'm a native, I'm indigenous, and the first thing they do is see this. They don't even see this no more, really.
Right.
Unless you're talking about like Mexico, stuff like that. But they see this right now. And that's the problem. And I don't know y'all know who this is. This is Chris Brown. Cousin to Crown Prince Pamunkey, Wichita. Chris Brown is heirs to Pocahontas, Tappahannock, Homestown, Hanover, West Point, Charicoke, King and Queen in King William County. That's where my family from is, from King William County. The Powhatan, the Pamunkey tribe reservation is over there. Official genealogy and acceptance. King William Training School, Hampton Homes had. Well, that's just saying. Now you see what it said. This is his cousin, Chris Brown family. I think I've heard that his granddad. I think it's his granddad. Or somebody is one of the chiefs, right, of Powhatan. Just found out I'm from the Pamunkey Indian tribe. See, that's where I'm from. Wow, that's awesome. Aboriginal, Indigenous, African American, Saint African. We've been here. 1828 definition of America, Northwest, a Mexium, rightful heirs, not black but more. Okay, so this is Chris Brown, the singer.
Let me say something else real quick, man.
Yeah.
And I know people gonna get in their feelings, and I don't even care. We got to stop with this, with thinking that just the word "more" is an identification, because it's not. It's not an identification of any individual people. It's not. I'm gonna say it one more time. Calling yourself a Moor is not an identification of an individual people. Calling yourself a Moor don't link you back to nothing. Now, when you're saying you're Moorish, that's correct. Just like people are Jewish, that's correct. The dictionary, it'll say blackamoor. It's a noun and an adjective. The word Moor all by itself is just a damn adjective. It's just describing the noun, which should be the person. So if people saying, oh, I'm a Moor. Moor what? What type of Moor are you? It's just an adjective. So taking the word Moor and replacing it with the word black. That's all people are doing. They're just replacing it with the word black. Because before the word black came into existence in 1614, I think it was, you were referred to as a Moreno in Spain, a Moreno. And before they were referred to as Moreno or Moors, they were referred to as Berbers. You're not calling yourself a damn Berber. Why not? That was the original name before Moor. Let's go all the way back. Let's just stop at a popular word. Moor, I just want to point that out because that also causes confusion when you see stuff like Aboriginal indigenous. That's an oxymoron. Aboriginal. Aboriginal means away from the original. The correct word is aborigine, and the word aborigine means from the beginning. There's no clock. Like we've been here since the grass been here, since the ground been here. That's aborigine. Indigenous also identifies a certain geographical area that you were there from the beginning as well. So aborigine and indigenous are almost synonymous, but words like aboriginal, words like native, words like Moor, it's gonna always be a detractor, especially if you're not talking about the MUU Moors. Now, Moors don't not know about, they don't talk about the MUU Moor. You won't hear about the MUU, the original Moor, before there was a damn Algeria, before there was a Spain. They don't talk about those Moors because the more popular story is the Moors of Spain, which I don't know what the hell the Moors of Spain got to do with anybody in North America, because at the time the Moors of Spain were doing in Spain, guess what? People in North America was already here, still here, before they even got on the map. Before they crawled out of freaking Algiers and before they crawled out of anywhere of Africa, people over here were already thriving here. After you get finished, I'm gonna take y'all to the Woodland period, and we're gonna make some comparative notes of how long this Moorish Empire been around versus the Woodland period been around.
I want to point out something though.
Hold
I
on,
want to point out something before we move ahead.
What you can't do is have a conversation about Moorish anything in BC time frame, but you can't do that. Show me BC time frame more if you can't. It's gonna be in AD.
You said more in BC time frame?
You can't show me any Moorish history in BC or AM. It's going to be AD.
Yeah, the word more doesn't start till AD though. It's a Latin word. It has R, M-O-O-R.
Tell people. So we're talking about finding the source origin. Let's go all the way back and stop playing. Stop playing with these popular words. It's a popular word. It's a trigger word. People love the word more. People love the word indigenous. People love the word native. It's a popular word. But you're not identifying anybody by saying those words. Just like I asked Hebrew Israelites, what tribe you from, Moor? What Moorish tribe you come from? Were the Moors tribal? They were not tribal.
But you can find, like you said, it goes all the way back to the island of Mu, though. You can find the Mu before the Moor, like the where it derived from.
No, the M-O-O-R got nothing to do with M-U-U-R. It's two different.
No, I'm saying the M-O-O-R is the Latinized of the moose. You feel what I'm saying?
Okay, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. I wanted to point out something though that he was talking about. I wanted to point out something that you were talking about. I'm talking about the difference. So this is the difference that you got to understand, is that we can sit up here and say, you know, who did what or whatever, but it's kind of on us what we represent, what we like. If you say I'm this, then are you going to start dressing like that and teaching your kids that? Because there's five groups here, well, six that we're mixing up. There's the Indian. That's something that starts in like the late 1800s, between agreements between certain groups of people in the U.S. government. Certain groups of people made agreements to switch names up. You have $5 Indians. You got the Dawes-Rose Act. That's an Indian. Then you have a native. A native is based on wherever you're born. So if you're born in California, you're a native to California. You feel what I'm saying? If you're born in Mexico, you're a native to Mexico, wherever you're born at. Indigenous, that's dealing with your genetics. That's dealing with the actual ground that whoever your ancient ancestor comes from, however they're going to determine that. But indigenous is dealing with coming straight from the root of that land, right? Now, European, these are people from Europe. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because you have people from Europe that were melanated, that were free, that owned people. You have people from Europe that were pale white. So that more has to do with like the culture and what they push. Now we just use that to reference Caucasians in total, but there's a lot of European history or Moorish history that he was talking about in the AD, a lot of Moorish history of melanated people in Europe, that's European. I think a lot of our history gets skipped by us not paying attention to these words, because black, when you draw it back, right? Like he was talking about what we were referred to as different terms. You see the root of it being the blanc and the blanco, and the blanco is the ones we call white now, and even slave, it was their name. So there's a lot of history written right here of blanco slaves. You feel what I'm saying? That we think they're talking about You know, it's our own ignorance that makes us think they're talking about our grandparents, the same ones who were saying told us that we were these tribes and these different things. So a lot of it is us too. A lot of it is our pushing our own misunderstanding into our narratives, into our kids, into how we talk, into how we present it. You feel what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree.
Then you have the African, right? 6 different groups. These are not even tribes or nations. These are 6 different groups of people we talking about, all here in North America. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, and then like, yeah, then you had like nations like, I mean, like the Powhatan Nation Confederacy, like it was 60 nations, 60 tribes under that he ran, that Chief Powhatan ran and over here, and like I said, you know, each state is, you know, has its own type of history when it comes, because everybody don't have that mixture with just African and Native American, so that's why I'm only really on this side. Because I don't really teach I let other people teach the, you know, the Mexican side and all that. I know it's an origin of all, but I'm showing, because I never hear a lot of people talk about North America on the East Coast. So that's why I always talk about it, because that's where I'm from. So I don't hear a lot of people talk. I always hear about the all Mexicans and stuff like that. We, you know, a lot of that is out. So that's why I always come to the East Coast part.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because I've been saying that shit for a long time, bro. I've been saying that people look off the front porch over to Africa without looking at the fact that there's 2 different sex, SECT, of individuals in America. And after you do the next slide, I'm gonna pull something up and show people about what I was talking about 100,000 BC. Go ahead, though.
All right. The Chesapeake Bay and the James River. Well, hold on. Let me go to this. As labor intense tobacco cultivation brought more wealth to some of Virginia, colonist demand increased for both Europeans and Africans to work the land. Governor Sir William Berkeley estimated that just prior to 1670, Virginia's population included 6,000 indentured servants and 2,000 enslaved people by 1700. The number of enslaved people of African descent in Virginia numbered approximately 5,000. Now, this is why I'm just showing people that when they talk about a mass amount, just Africans just came. Virginia was the second slave-holding state, and we only had 5,000 people in the 1700s. And like brother said, a lot of that slavery stuff and the slave trade they were talking about when they started bringing people more in was down in the late 1700s. You know what I'm saying? It's not no 400 years of just mass amounts of just slavery coming over here, and that's the false history that they're teaching people.
Hold on. But you got to be careful with that, brother, because a lot of people will argue that with you. And the 3 questions you have to ask, I mean, this is for the listening audience. When anybody start to say that Africans brought Africa to America, the first question you ask is, which America? Write that down. Which America? Because there's 3 Americas last time I checked. There's 3 Americas. There's North, Central, and South. Which America were they brought to? Then you ask them when. Make them give you a time period of when they were brought, and then they ask exactly where and what were they doing. Because for you to tell me that Africans brought out of Africa to Virginia, I'm gonna ask you what the hell they were doing when they got here.
You said what they what?
My question would be, if slaves were brought out of Africa to North America, I'm gonna ask you when. Give me a date when they were brought over here. Where were they brought to, and what were they doing when they got here? And if anything about cotton come out their mouth, walk the fuck off. Cotton don't even start to the 1800s. And international slave trade from Africa was outlawed in 1806. You couldn't even bring niggas out of Africa no more at 1806. So you asked them, what were they doing when they got here? They said, oh, they're picking tobacco. Where? Only in Virginia, because tobacco wasn't growing nowhere else. South Carolina had rice plantations. You don't hear about that shit, do you? You hear about the tobacco in Virginia. And at the point when they brought people out of Africa to supposedly North America, and one of the things I actually is where they brought them to, is because how many colonies were established at the time they were brought here? Where were they at when they brought them here? You only had 7 colonies, y'all. 7 colonies. So there were nobody picking nothing, nowhere. But I tell you what they did take them to, South America, dig for gold. they did take them to the islands to harvest sugarcane plantation, and the first ones in the islands who was slaves were the Irish. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if anybody asks me that, but like I told people, I went to all the slave trails. I went to Jamestown. That was from the Jamestown historical site. That was me going there and taking a picture of that. So, you know, like if they ask me, I can show them. You know, I have all the when I went all through the slave trails and read them and stuff like that. Like I said, I agree. It wasn't a lot of people that came over here. It was some, but it wasn't a lot, and that's how they mixed us in. And I ain't saying every state. I'm saying that's why I was speaking on where I'm from right here, just to give people understanding that every state ain't the same. Like when people are going with dealt with in Virginia, I mean California and Detroit, everywhere wasn't the same thing. So I'm just showing my information from like this. Like I said, the field work I went to, that was the Jamestown historical site, and I went to the Lumpkin jail, so where's the slave jail where all the slaves went and when they went to a certain jail and they sold them. We was like a branch of it. See, people talk about a plantation, but it was a branch of we was like the state that you brung us to and then we sold you off. And where they sold you off, I bet they sold us off. Well, the Africans.
Let me say this then.
Like that.
M.O.I. Would you say that? Okay, let me say this then, because it sounds like you're saying like the slavery did happen. He's saying I don't want no one to be confused. So would you say that, like he said, when it was outlawed, that they were still illegally, like in the South, they were illegally smuggling slaves in?
Yeah, that's what when people started saying kidnap, because see what happened, they make you confused in history to think that kidnap was when they just was going to Africa and taking us. That's not what happened. What happened is, like you said, in the 1800s when they banned slavery, the South was still doing it.
I'm asking. I didn't say it. I'm asking. I'm saying you're saying okay.
Yeah, so when they got caught, it was kidnapping. A lot of them, so they were trying to stop the South from doing it. It was called a lot of the stuff was called kidnapping. But like I said, the most of the slaves went to South America, and the most people went to Brazil, which actually was 28%. You see what I'm saying? So they did come over here, but it's not in a mass amount. I'm just saying it's exaggerated. They want no 100 million, they want no 12 million. It wasn't a mass because only, like I said, only a couple 100,000 came to the whole United States. So it's not. It just ain't as big as people think it was. But they was doing it to animals. They was doing it to food. They took people from Virginia. America. Took us to Europe. Took us to Africa. Took people to South America. Took people from South America up to America. You know, they did a lot of that stuff to displace people, and that's one of their tricks.
Well, I think this is a conversation about geography because this is what I found. I see what you're saying, right? But here's something that M.O.I points out. When you put the time dates together, right? The South was actually fighting the rest of the U.S. during the Civil War. We had the Cherokee Brigade and all that down there. You had Florida, you had Louisiana. So supposedly they were bringing slaves to these coasts, but the U.S. wasn't there. You see what I'm saying? So the story does get tricky. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I understand what you're saying. That's why I said it was a later time.
Let me say this though. I think this is where a lot of outsiders get confused. Me and M.O.I are not saying slavery didn't happen. We're talking about whether or not those people who were enslaved came across on the boat. We're not saying that.
I'm saying it didn't happen. I say it didn't happen, and debate me on it. Anybody debate me on it?
Are you saying slavery at all didn't happen?
No.
No one was enslaved.
I mean, that's everybody for reference. Like I said, I only can go by what I know. So I mean, if people want to believe it, that's all I know. You know.
And y'all know how. I'm talking to the audience. All 150, 60 of y'all. Y'all know how I get down. Don't believe a word I say. I'm not here to convince or persuade nobody. All right. A lot of our people are suffering from psychoneurosis. They just go on with the narrative because they can't disprove the narrative. So it's easy to go along with the narrative. The idea of slavery, the word slave itself, we all should know by this point, does not apply to dark-skinned people. It applies to individuals who were brought from Europe to work in the new established colonies called the Colonial Project, which was established by the Virginia Company and the Pennsylvania Company. They had 3 colonies at the interim of it. And at the interim of those 3 colonies, they got volunteers from the prisons. There was called debtors' jail. Look it up. The Slavs. And because these Slavs or these slaves did not want to work that full 7-year tenure to get their freedom, A lot of them ran down south. They ran to South Carolina, they ran to Tennessee, they ran to Georgia, and they ran to Alabama. These are Europeans. And so many Europeans had fled, runaway slaves, had ran from the colonies, and they collected in what's called Georgia. When James Oglethorpe came to set up the colony of Georgia, he established the colony of Georgia for runaway white people. Now, when they show you our people out in the plant, out in the fields, they're just at work. I'm gonna come out your job, take a picture of you, and turn it black and white and say this is a slave right here, because you are a slave. If you have a job, you are a slave. These people were at work. So the scenario between what they've been teaching y'all is, like the brother was saying, let me show y'all something.
We got that, but you saying, let me get this then. No, because we have viewers. So are you saying there was no mass enslavement of the dark people? There was no time that
what I'm saying. I'm gonna show you what I'm saying. What you thinking is slavery was just prisoners of war. They were forced to what's called labor camps. I'm showing you what it is. We have to start with him first. Metacon. This is called the 100-Year Indian War. That's why we don't know anything about anything. I can show you the 100-Year Indian War. I can also show you the Second Middle Passage. It really got us confused because they were taking Negroes from Maryland, out of New York, out of Canada, out of Philadelphia, out of New Jersey, out of North Carolina. They were putting you on schooners. Wasn't no slave ships. It's called schooners or skiffs, and they would sell you from Baltimore around Florida and bring you into Louisiana.
So look, that's all I'm saying. When you're getting sold, look, that moment you're getting sold, that's the slavery. It's just not how we think of it.
No, we got to take that idea of slavery out of our mind. Because next, I'm gonna show you the top 10 black slave owners, and it's gonna really mess you up. Because
that's still slavery. I'm not saying it's not.
Okay,
I started the conversation.
I only got like 10 slabs. Can I just finish them first? Then we can go to your chunk. I don't.
This is well known.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I only got like 10 more slabs. I ain't make a long jump.
You good? Go ahead, continue.
All right.
I'm
just showing. Yeah, I'm just showing.
Right there. Thank you. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna talk about the slavery thing, but like I said, it's I mean, everybody have their own preferred. Like my brother teaches the same thing you're teaching. So but I just told, like I said, I just went to the slave trails, and when you were talking about the European, I agree with that. That did happen first, but then later on they did get certain Africans, but it just, like I said, it just wasn't a mass amount of them. You know what I'm saying? A lot of mass amount didn't come over here. It is some people that is not our people over here. Like everybody is not our people over here, not and that's why they always teaching that African stuff, because some of these motherfuckers is Africans. I'm just saying, But you go to this the picture he was showing right here. This the picture we were showing. I should have brought my this is the Jamestown historical site. This is talking about how we taught them about farming and stuff like that when they came over here. Because they didn't know how to do any of that stuff when they came over here, so we taught them everything. You know what I'm saying? You can go to the Jamestown in Virginia. It's a whole historical site. They digging up. They still gathering information, because history is not always exact. So, like the brother said, what he's saying might be true. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that's the information I got. Like I said, my brother teaches the same thing he teaches, that it wasn't no slavery at all. You know what I'm saying? So. And at first, I'm gonna tell you right now, I wasn't an indigenous person. I was a person that thought slavery was a big mess until my brother told me, like, no, that shit won't happen. So now I started studying, like, hey, he's right. It didn't happen like the way that number. So it might get.
That's what I'm saying. I think all we're saying is
people got levels of
the way that we're saying it happened. Like nobody, like, how do you say it didn't happen? Then you say we were sold. Like it's a contradiction in my ear.
Because
who's saying it didn't?
Because your idea of what slavery is needs to be retuned. When he finished, I'm gonna show you how to tune up. Like, we wasn't no slaves.
I didn't say we were slaves. I didn't say we were slaves. I'm just saying you're saying slavery, the institution of slavery didn't happen in North America. That's crazy to me.
Okay, I'm gonna show you. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
You're gonna show me we live in this. It's here.
Yeah,
We got the most
I
prisoners
believe.
in
I mean,
the
I'm gonna tell
world.
you right now.
We
I
got the
believe
most
it's
prisoners
right.
in the world. It's slavery right now.
I mean, my brother was.
The
My
most
brother.
prisoners
I
in the
mean,
world right now. North America has the
some
most
people would say.
prisoners
Some people would just say we were prisoners of
right
war. I mean,
now.
you know,
Right now.
some people would say we were
This ain't
prisoners of
400
war,
years
but
right now. It's
That's
slavery
what it
right now.
is, mad scientists. Prisoners of war, because Negroes don't know about the.
We prisoners of war right now. We prisoners of war right now. They got the black codes. What they had in 1800s, the black codes, what they used to lock. They got that going right now. I mean, you go outside and look.
That was only in South Carolina and Louisiana, man. It wasn't.
I'm saying it's 50 states now. They got niggas locked up in all of them. Like, okay.
Yeah. So this right here, this is just showing an European actor portraying to be a Native American, how they tricked you into thinking white straight-haired men were Indians. That this is William Henry Pratt, aka Boris Karloff, who was born in London, England, and is Anglo-Indian descent, not Native American. What about iconic crying Indian? So this is just showing you that they like the images of them trying to show you what it. So when we say that somebody like me say I'm indigenous, the first things that people they look at is people like this, because it's the picture they putting in front of people, especially where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? This right here, I'm just showing. This is just a European, and it's talking to my brother, and she is telling us that she understand what we are. She understands that what they're doing to us. You know what I'm saying? So I just showing, all right, this is DNA right here. This is why I just say I don't do DNA. I don't. If people want to do it, that's on them. But if you have known ancestors from regions, well, this is from I asked why sometimes DNA, Indian DNA, is not showing up in people's DNA, and this is one of the reasons why. If you have known ancestors from regions of North or South America, where Native Americans are typically from, where your DNA test does not show any Native American heritage, there are a few possible explanations. One possibility is that your ancestors are not Native American, but were of another wait, y'all know the word. My bad. Another possible is that your ancestors were this thing in the way, man. Native American, but they lived in an area where there was very little genetic mixing with other groups. This means that the Native American DNA might not be detectable in your DNA test. Even though, like he said, I don't believe tribes. I don't believe that DNA stuff that you could find a tribe, and I could show a dude that's telling you that junk is fake. When they did a junk on Oprah, they actually just made it up that she was from Africa. You know what I'm saying? And they cannot tell you exactly where you come from.
Yeah, I forgot his name. He actually was like, that shit is all a hoax. This is all made up. They got Negroes thinking they can put spit on a Q-tip and find out what tribe they come from 500 years ago. That's it, man.
And I want you to speak. I want you to speak. I want y'all to build me on this, though. You know what I'm saying? So because I wanted to get that out of the way. But this is the stuff. Because I know y'all. Well, this stuff y'all might know more a little about. So I know you. So Montezuma Rex.
That's Montezuma, yeah.
Yeah. Montezuma is shown in a full war dress with a picture part of modern Mexico City behind him. The portrait is from John Complete History of America, one of the most influential works of the 17th century. Okay. I don't know if you ever heard of them before. Yep. They was in a circus, and they are Aztec couple, members of the once great Mexican tribe, Encyclopedia Britannica, El Salvador, the people, descent of Aztecs. The prominent tribe in the region prior to Spanish conquest named their territory capital Cascatin, meaning land of the jewel, and the name is still sometimes applied to El Salvador today. Y'all need more info on these people? Y'all want to say that?
You said those are Aztec people?
Yeah. This is what the info said right here.
Yeah, they came later though.
Well, I think that goes into, like I said, man, you have your ethnicity, you have your race, you have your nationality. And what I see them is, what do they identify with? What do they speak when they open their mouth? What do they feel? You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. But if I tell you you're this or that, then you'd be like, I don't want to hear that, nigga. I'm this or that. You know what I mean? That's why nationality is the order of the day. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna boil down to what do you culturally identify with, you know.
And just the last thing I'm gonna show right here, I just wanted to show some of the other places, not just in Virginia and stuff like that. So that some of that stuff was Peru. Let me see if I can get. Now this is the one thing I want to talk about right here. How the Native American was called a Negro. In British colonies, the North America along the Atlantic coast, many persons of American ancestry were at times classified as blacks, Negroes, mulattoes, or people of color, and these terms were, of course, used for people of African ancestry. The manner in which Americans and part Americans were sometimes classified as mulattoes and people of color from New England to South Carolina and the Spanish Empire are explored elsewhere. The purpose here is to illustrate how the term Negro has always applied to people of American descent. Now, you ain't gonna find nowhere in history where they just because they try to say that it didn't mean that they were talking about people of darker color, but they don't know. But we have never heard them words used, but other than for people with darker color. So y'all just look up. This is the Virginia. Let me see exactly. This is. I can't. I know it's Virginia VCU Education.com. I think that's what it is. So this is the school in Virginia, college in Virginia, talking about the term Negro was based on the slave and the so-called slave, the prisoner of war, if you want to call it, and the indigenous. And so you can go ahead, bro.
No, I just want to say first of all, man, beautiful work that you presented. But I will tell you this in full transparency. There's a lot more information behind a lot of information that you have put out. And I think it's real great for an introductory course to some people who may not even be thinking that way or even understanding what's going on. But when you dig deeper, like we literally could have taught 1 hour on one slide you had. I mean, any slide you had, it could have been a 1 hour conversation on one slide because there's so much information to put out. So I think you did a beautiful job on disseminating the information. I would like to see you.
I try to make it simple for people because people.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, the platforms I've been on. See, I know the platforms I've been on. You have short attention spans. They don't,
Not over here.
They don't really know. They can't go that deep into it. But like I said, I just showed a lot of stuff that I went to and places I went. I have more places that I went and all that stuff. But this just was the because I wasn't actually. It's actually another platform I posted it on, but I didn't want to do it, so I did it on this one. The other platform was more like I had to break it down a little lower for them.
Oh no, what you did was good. You gotta explain that, but what you did was good. What I'm saying is the information you just taught are for individuals who need to go to first through third grade. And there's so many people out there, bro, who has never heard that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And so there is a platform for that. There are people for that situation. And I think you did a beautiful job disseminating information. I want to see you grow that information. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to see you grow it and really dive into a lot of the pieces that you was bringing up. And you brought up some beautiful topics for me and bro to jump on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see, bro, like, yeah. And we're not debating. We're not debating at all. Like, I do the same thing to him. If I don't understand, I'm a question like, what's that? And that's how we get better. Iron sharpen iron. We gonna all right, listen, well, I ain't never heard of that. You gotta show me some shit right quick and I'm on research on it. But y'all know that I don't ever try to convince nobody of information. I know, and this is not bragging and boasting on no ego shit, none of that stuff. People who really know me, understand and know me, you know what I'm saying? I can drop 26,000 years of information. So while you talking about you talking about the slave trade, right? My mind had already went to Ireland already because the first slaves came out of Ireland. They came out of Africa. You know what I'm saying? And then when you talk about the slave trade, nobody in conversation mentioned Indica Terra Cavina. We got to talk about the Indica Terra Cavina. That was the mandate to give Spain the permission to even send Cortez over here. Or nobody talked about when Columbus came over here that he had Ponce de Leon right with him. Ponce de Leon came back and became the governor of what we call Puerto Rico and set up St. Augustine and pushed the Miamian tribe out. And that's where the Seminoles came in. Nobody talked about General Andrew Jackson. Nobody talked about James Oglethorpe. See, when I talk about shit, I'm giving you the names, the dates, and the people. I don't do barbershop talk. I'm glad you brought the PowerPoints. The PowerPoints are important to show receipts on everything too. And that's how we build on Sunday. Crip Jesus, myself, and Inky, we pull up receipts. We're showing you the information. And bro, Crip Jesus is literally connected. Like his family are those people he's talking about. Like that's his family. He ain't gotta do no spit test, nothing. Like, and then granddaddy already in. Like he good. His blood, like he are those Gullah people. Like he are those people. You know what I'm saying? I showed you my great grandma. I am those people. So you ain't gotta convince us. We already know what time it is. It's these other Negroes you gotta convince. So I'm gonna take 7 minutes.
But I want to add on to what you said. It's very important because I thought of it as soon as you were saying. So I just wanted not to cut you off. But look,
talk to me.
Like you said, it goes back to what I was saying about nationality. How we gotta learn to separate the two. How you saying why you keep focusing on your spit? That's your genetics. That goes to this. Even if you do get something for that, that ain't got nothing to do with your nationality, your tribe, your nationality, which is the history that comes from a name and understanding the names. And what I want to point out with that is that because we stick our nationality with the U.S., what you got to understand, brother, is it don't matter how many slides any of us bring. The U.S. don't go past the East Coast in that little corner it was in until the 1875 after the Civil War.
That's what I said. That's why I speak in modern time because a lot of people already speak the ancient time.
No, what we talking about? America don't go where? Past what now?
No, I'm saying it doesn't even leave past where the Civil War was, east of the Mississippi, and that little above Florida and all that. It doesn't even go beyond that until what? 1865, 1875.
What don't go beyond that? I'm confused.
The U.S. territory.
No, man, you got to study the Treaty of Paris.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, even with the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, right? I'm saying even with the Louisiana Purchase after 18.
Not the Louisiana Purchase. We're not talking about the 1800s. I'm going back to the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty.
No, I'm saying this.
Already divided the lands up to America already.
No, look what I'm saying. I'm saying even when we are discussing, I'm talking about nationality. The U.S. nationality in 1776, when there was only 13 colonies, like you were pointing out, the U.S. was so small, and a lot of this history we're talking about, it makes us forget a lot of those people you're talking about. Ponce de Leon. I wanted to point out Estevanico, Mustafa Zamora, who's over here, the medicine man that came from Morocco to Spain. So it's a lot of people we miss out on by only sticking with the U.S. nationality, not understanding that we were here even as free people, Creole people, and Spanish-speaking people, and all that before then. Like he was talking about Ponce de Leon, Du Sable that built Chicago, the French brother Cadillac that built Detroit. You feel what I'm saying? Like he said, it's a lot of people we miss by sticking on the nationality of U.S. black slave nigga. You feel what I'm saying? There's a lot of great royal brothers in all these other states and lands all around us that spoke Spanish, French, Creole, all that. You know what I mean? That look just like us. That's our grandparents.
Yeah, I mean that's the purpose I tried to show.
I'm with you now.
That's the purpose I tried to show the difference of how they tricked us into calling ourselves a Negro, and like especially like where I'm from in Virginia, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, I just speaking on like the modern times. I go to ancient stuff. I teach over Sumerian and all this. I could have went ancient time, but like I said, I spoke on this area because the people in the circles and the people I talk to, they don't speak on a lot of Virginia and East Coast indigenous people, and many of them don't know. So, like I said, when I made this presentation, it was basically the information I went to and the information I know of as basically more modern history. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I'm with you, brother. I'm not.
No. Yeah, I understand. No,
like I said,
that's why I said I'm doing that because I feel like it is people out here that really don't know, and I don't.
Look, when I go to the East Coast, like you said, the East Coast. Like you said, the East Coast. I start in 1521, South Carolina, Francisco Shakura. Look him up. That's the first person they kidnapped. Yeah. When I say they, I'm not talking about the English. So I'm talking about the European conqueror that you're talking about. It was the Spanish came over here on the East Coast of North America first. And they kidnapped Francisco. They named them Francisco Shakur. I think they called them not Little John, but it was a whole tribe over there. He was of the Shakur tribe. That's on the East Coast. That's where you talk about. That's Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina. You know what I'm saying?
I wasn't saying you. I was saying that when the circle and most people I speak on when we talking about indigenous people, all I hear people is talk about is Mexico and the West Coast, and some people talk about the deep South. But I'm saying I spoke on Virginia because that's where I'm from, and I feel like my history has not been spoken a lot to a lot of people because they don't really know. So I just broke it down simple because like when I got to get people in. Once you get the people in, then that's when you start going into the deeper thing. That's just from the lessons I learned of teaching people, because if you get too deep into it, a lot of people are like, whoa, that's too much. What about, you know what I mean? So that's the way I learned how to teach, because a lot of people if they don't know, I don't just bombard them with a lot of information. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a old teacher of indigenous. I'm coming into it. My brother is more of that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just coming into it. So yes, I'm not coming from an aspect of how y'all be able to do. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Let me share something with you. Take it or leave it. Eat the meat, spit the bone out. And I'm talking to you right now, right? A lot of what you have to do, bro, is when you disseminate information. Listen, man. I promise you, when you disseminate information, you got to do two things. Put people in time and space. If you're able to put people in time and space, they will always listen to you. I mean, what you talking about? It be the barbershop talk I heard, and she said, and they people in Africa, the white man and slave, all that retarded shit got to stop. So when you go forward with you do a great job. All your information going forward, even with your brother, I'm pretty sure your brother don't always put people in time and space. And I mean time and space. I mean, you give them a damn date, a geographical location, and the person. The other person that you're talking to will have to be quiet. The whole room get quiet when you start doing that. And the example I give is about the first printed Bible. If I ask you who printed the Bible, you go to King James. If I say 1463 Woodbridge, Germany, Johannes Gutenberg. Johannes Gutenberg didn't have the money to get it, so Johannes Fuss took it from him in 1464 and brought it back to Europe. Just a little short 20-second, what I just said already caught you already, time and space. So even when you're talking about the indigenous tribes, you're talking about the Pamunkey, you're talking about the you didn't bring up the Natchez, which is right there in Suffolk. I was in Virginia for 20 years. I know all about 58 and Nag's Head. I know all about the areas up there. You know what I'm saying? That's how I found out that Nat Turner was the last Indian chief. And there was a slave, it wasn't a slave revolt. That was the last part of the 100-year Indian War. And that's the segue I want to take y'all into the 100-year Indian War. I'm gonna show you how slavery was not what we was taught it was. It was just employees who didn't have an HR at the time. Okay, that's all it was. They got taken advantage of. Unfortunately, like you mentioned earlier, when the Europeans came to America, they couldn't plant nothing. They didn't know how to plant anything. Africans are from Africa. Cotton don't grow in Africa, so you can't bring an African from Africa to America to plant cotton or plant tobacco because it don't grow over there. So you don't know what the fuck to do with the soil. There are no almanacs yet. Nobody tell you when to plant. But the indigenous people from America know when to plant it and know how to harvest it too. They know when to do it and how to do it. Like your grandma know how to do stuff that you don't know how to do because they're from here. You can't bring an African from Africa to America and tell him go pick something or go grow something. He don't know what to do.
Oh, let me hop in.
Yeah, I don't agree.
That's
No.
I don't agree with that.
I gave you peace, but now I'm about to come with some.
Okay, but I'm just saying. I'm saying. You kind of show you. I showed you an actual place I went to that had the slave trails. I actually went to the slave jail. I actually went to Jamestown and showing stuff. So I'm just saying, I can't take a Google thing over going to the site.
Please let me say this. But do you know what he's talking about when he said the almanac? So you have people like Benjamin Banneker. You have people who they literally switch their history or switch their parents' history to force the story of slavery on them that weren't slaves at all.
So, brother, are y'all telling me the slave trails don't? So, are you telling me the slave trails don't exist that I went to?
You're not saying don't exist, but what about
telling me the slave jail I went to don't exist?
I'm
saying this. No, I got this.
I'm asking y'all to give me 5 minutes flat and let me show y'all. I'm not gonna do no more barbershop talk. I'm done with the talking about who did what, who did where, what. Let me show you. And yes, you said Google.
Y'all show that. Y'all show that. Then I'm gonna show you when I went to Jamestown. I'm gonna show you when I went to
we got a good 5, 6, 10 minutes. Get him. Get him.
You saying I'm talking. You saying Google? I got a whole damn library over here, books.
I mean, I ain't talking about lab. I'm talking about the sites I went to. I'm talking about actually landmarks that told me that where the slave trade happened, how much people came, where the places went. You see what I'm saying?
And I'm not arguing that point at all. But what I'm saying is, the first Africans to come to North America came to Fort Comfort, Virginia. It was only 19 of them. Do you know how they got there? Those were the first Africans in America. Period.
Okay. I agree, but I agree, so but now, I'm not. But so you agree Africans did come over here then?
To North America?
Yes.
I just told you 19 of them came over here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was the first people that came that were actually was free. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
No, they weren't free. They weren't free.
The free. Man, I don't know, man. This is like
all I'm trying to do. If you give me a chance, I can teach you some stuff. Oh, he got upset and left the fucking thing, then he left the live. I was trying to make the brother upset about nothing. I agree with him. I don't like. I still haven't had a chance.
Hold it in.
I still haven't.
Can I say something?
Can I say something? To show my shit.
It's almost scary because that's like when I looked up the whole African slave trade thing, right? Look. It was literally I want to say the white dude's name. Like you can look him up. It's but he gets like 4 dudes to go with him to Portugal, and then they send like they're translators. And they send like 2 or 3 of them to England. Like this is the slave. Like you feel what I'm saying? You know. Listen, then you see the hard-working Irish white slave.
I tell you one thing though, on a serious tip, what we don't do over here is be disrespectful to nobody. You know what I'm saying? And like, I think the brother reached out through Sister Ivory to ask me to do this live. I need to be in the bed right now. I got a whole lecture due in the morning. And I agreed to come on this live last fucking minute, signed up last minute. For him to just bunk out the room like that is disrespectful. And quite frankly, he won't be allowed on Chrome Network no more. I bet you that. Not none of these fucking networks, which I'm pretty sure we got way more followers than he got. Tons of more followers. He got way more eyes on it. I was just asking if you and him can be quiet for 5 minutes and let me walk you through the true history of actually what was happening and why we were told that story of slavery. Yes, he might have went to visit those chambers, but the people in those chambers were not black people in those chambers.
Booyah!
Then hold on. Then what I was going to show you were the 10 famous black slave owners who owned slaves. And I was going to bring up Anthony Johnson. And I was going to go back to Virginia and talk to him about Anthony Johnson, who was a black man who owned slaves. And Elizabeth.
The right person is here for this one. I've been waiting to see this, baby. Oh,
William
give it to
Ellis. Me. Okay. I was going to show you John. I'm going to show you all these so-called black slave owners. And the point I was going to make was like me. I live in Atlanta right now, right? 400 years from now, they can write a story about the poor black people who live in Herndon homes, who live in the project, who own welfare, who always in jail, who always
and say that's all of y'all. That's how y'all was.
So while they're showing you these pictures right here, these people are at work. These are not slaves. They're at work. And because they're picking cotton, this is after 1815. So we can't talk about no goddamn Virginia in no slave ships and then talk about 1800 picking cotton, because there was no cotton in the 1700s. You don't get cotton to the 1800s. And then king cotton exploded in the 1830s and 40s. So 1830s and 40s, they were shipping nobody from nowhere from Africa. What we have to deal with is this right here. Where's it at? Let me show you right quick. Get rid of it right here. This is called the Second Middle Passage. Now you will not hear anybody talk about the Second Middle Passage. The Second Middle Passage was a turning point of history of domestic slave trade that occurred from 1790 into 1861, the Civil War you mentioned. Enslaved people, not slaves. Enslaved and slaves are not the same thing. That's the first thing you got to talk about. Enslaved people were relocated from the upper South, the lower South, United States to accommodate spread of the cotton industry. So what you get is Negroes being kidnapped, like in the movie 12 Years a Slave. He's from New York. They tricked him to come to DC, put his ass on a schooner, put him in New Orleans, changed his name and slapped him, and he had to do fucking work, right? So they took so many of our cousins and aunties and uncles and granddads and grandmas from places like New York and Boston and New Jersey and Chicago and places like, not Chicago, I'm sorry, Washington, D.C., and they shipped their ass out of the Baltimore Harbor around Florida, and they put them out of Mississippi and Louisiana. Why do you think they was always running north for freedom? Because that's where they live at.
Come on,
they
now.
From the north. They running back home.
They running back home
for freedom, not because some African got brought to Georgia picking cotton. He took off running towards New York towards freedom. It's stupid as hell, because slavery existed in the Northern Territory too.
Exactly.
It existed in D.C. It existed in Maryland.
As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, no, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Brooklyn the biggest slave plantation they had in North America? In Brooklyn, right?
They brought them into Brooklyn. Brooklyn, let me show you about Brooklyn. Brooklyn belonged to Mr. Weeksville, a man. Let me show you about Weeksville. See, it's so much people got it that sometimes when you don't know something, you just got to be quiet and listen. Like, just have to sometimes, because you don't know that much. And it's okay, because I don't know everything either, but what I know is what I know. This is Weeksville. You know, Weeksville ended up becoming Brooklyn. Mr. Weeksville owned it. Do you know when Weeksville was started? Weeksville was started before goddamn Tulsa, Oklahoma was started. This was the first black Tulsa, Oklahoma, called Weeksville. Later it became Bedford-Stuyvesant, Central Brooklyn. My brother owned it. Mr. Weeksville bought it.
I didn't know that.
He bought it from another Native American brother. So we got to tell this shit correctly. So watch this now. These people are just at work. And what you get is you get a bunch of Europeans who don't know how to grow nothing, because nothing comes out of Europe. Even to this day in 2023, Europe don't export nothing. The ground too hard. You can't grow shit over there. The condition in Europe, you had serfs. Okay, you had lords, you had dukes, you had earls, and the governors of the manor, which is a plantation. It's not even called a plantation. They're called planters. A plantation, another word for a factory. So let's look at the plantation house as corporate, the corporate office. Yeah. And Massa, who's a planter, go to the bank, take out a business loan. Let me put it in today's term. He take out a business loan because he want to buy some land. He wants to become a farmer, but he can't farm nothing. So what he do is he agree with the people who live there on the land. Now, how Massa got it, Massa was a squatter. Y'all don't know what a squatter is. You don't know what a scallywag was. They came down from the north to the south and they manipulated these Negroes out of their land by telling them, listen, you need seed, tool, and a donkey. Now, Massa just got a big ass loan from the bank. Negro, this brother right here, this brother and sister and their kids, I'm going to give you the mule, I'm going to give you the tools, I'm going to give you everything you need. At the end of the harvest, we're going to split it. This Negro worked year after year after year after year. He gets further and further and further into debt with the master. He becomes a debtor. The master said, well, you got to stay here and remain here and work this land to work off this debt. He said, the hell with them, I'm about to go. Until he runs off and gets brought back because legislation is passed called Fugitive Act. We're not talking about the Fugitive Act. They had words like Fugitive Act. Do you know what Abraham Lincoln did to these Negroes? Abraham Lincoln didn't even call them slaves. He called them contrabands of war. Contrabands of war is what he called them, because they were not slaves. The condition of how they worked was enslavement, because they received little to no compensation. So enslavement and being a slave is not the same thing. All of you have a regular 9-to-5 job.
Yeah,
you go to that job, whether they pay you $100,000 a year or $55,000 a year. If you did your time and you divided it up, then what the Inquisition Revenue Service take from you, okay, which is the Queen, take her cut from your check off the top. You add it up and calculate it. Guess what you are? Enslaved. Prove my point, and I pass the mic.
No,
this is general order.
I want to get
real quick, brother. This is general order number 3. Remember, workers, enslavement, little to no pay. You have a group of people just got to work there no matter what.
Yeah.
This is general order number 3. This was read in Galveston, Texas, that y'all niggas celebrate Juneteenth. I don't celebrate it. I destroy Juneteenth with this one piece right here. I didn't make this up. It says the people are informed, the people of Galveston, that in accordance with proclamation from the executive of the United States, comma, you got to stop reading when you see a comma. You can't just keep reading when you see a comma. It's called dyslexia. So let's stop reading at the comma. Let's go back and reflect for a second. It said proclamation. What is a proclamation? It's just a public statement made by a public official. Shit ain't even legal. Ain't lawful either. He said the executive of the United States. Why he didn't say president? Because he couldn't say president. Lincoln had enacted war power. Lincoln was now the chief of staff. He wasn't even the president no more in this state. Watch this. All slaves are free. You can stop reading and run off the plantation and celebrate Juneteenth if you want to, or we can keep reading. This involves absolute equality of personal rights. Who do those personal rights apply to? White folk. They're saying we're going to make sure that your personal rights and your property. Who's the property? Not just the plantation, not just the big ass house. Yes, absolute personal rights and rights of property between former who? Master and
masters
who?
and slaves.
Slave. Now the slaves were the people enslaved, not slaves. The enslaved people were the workers who working their ass off and receiving little to no compensation at all. That's enslavement. It says
they want to maintain those contracts.
Watch how they change it. Good. Thank you for saying contract. Watch how the contract changed. And the connection herefore existing between them, the master and the slave, becomes what?
That between employer and hired labor. Yep,
that's what you are. There. So it wasn't about slavery. It was about the labor force. They needed a bigger labor force to pick more cotton, but the finances weren't going up. So when the South became king cotton, exporting over 82% of the world's cotton, they had everybody in America working on plantations down there, picking that goddamn cotton. And they wasn't paying them nothing. A lot of them who they can't move off their land, they had to do what's called sharecropping with them. Because if they moved and left, they couldn't replant no way. White folk weren't going to do it. And what they did, they hired the Irish to be the overseers. That's why in every slave movie, them nasty horseback riding people watching them work out there are Irish. Because the Irish were the first slaves. They were called red legs. Ask Rihanna. She one of them. Go look it up. Don't believe me. It said the freed. So you have the freed, you have slaves, and you have masters. 3 groups of people. The freed are advised to remain in their present home and work for what? Wages. Then who the hell they working for right here then? Who they working for? If the freed,
they're not working, they getting some
if
food,
the freed are working for wages, then what they working for? They say they are informed they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in their idleness or elsewhere. They had to put that in there because you had a thing passed called vagrancy laws. The vagrancy law said if you were a Negro and you were caught after sundown with no money in your pocket, because there were no IDs back then, or no driver's license, you had to have $1 in your pocket to identify that you were a working man. That's why when I was growing up, my grandmother always made sure we kept change in our pocket. It's a condition. My grandma was a sharecropper. So I'm telling y'all, ain't no damn slavery how they teaching y'all. Brother got mad, could have stayed and caught the information, but it's on him. I know he saw the chambers and the slave trails and all that kind of hogwash.
But I want to say this though. This is where the cohesiveness comes in, where I do understand why I rock with you so much. Is that the rewriting of the story, his story, is for the same reason we get to yelling and all that. We see the lie here. It's to make us submissive. It's to make us think of ourselves weak and fearful. You know what I mean? So it's to always give us, like you said, if I take this picture, this most disgusting, sad story, and just show it to you over and over. This is all you. This is you. This is you. Multiply times 1,000,000, right? When there was more of them. Like we were talking about, it was more of them dropped off on the coast, made the work and owned. But why do they not talk about that as much and show that as much? Here's a question you got to ask yourself. Why don't they want to be the victim? Why don't they want the sympathy? because the goal really here is to make us submissive, make us weak, make us victim thinkers.
These right here are your slaves. These are the ones that came over on slave ships from Ireland. Okay, stick with me. Let me show you something else too. Hold on, watch this shit. These were the ones that were captured and made to work. Oh, I'm trying to blow it up for y'all so I can see it real good. See this right here?
Mm-hmm.
The Irish, called the Redlegs, they were the first ones. Them, not you, because they couldn't touch Africans yet because the Intercaterra Convention wasn't even issued yet. And you don't get the first African slaves until John Hawkins. John Hawkins received a government contract by the church to ship what we call the infidels out of Africa and bring them over to Barbados and St. Lucia to the islands to trade places with the Redlegs. These are the people y'all talking about right here. Watch this. Etymology of slave. If you don't know it now, I'm gonna show you again so you can get it out your head about slaves. We gotta, that made me upset. We gotta be too smart. We talk too much stuff to understand, right? This is what a slave is. A Slavic captive, not a Negro from Africa. A Slavic. And I can show you what a Slavic is.
Who was kidnapping these Slavics? Was it that us, like we were under the term?
No.
Slavics, right?
No.
No, I'm saying when we were in position, we were kidnapping a lot of Slavics, right? Like Yaqub al-Mansur had a lot of I'm talking about he kidnapped a lot of them.
Right, but see, what we're doing is merging timelines. This wasn't until the 9th century.
I'm going way back.
Moors and all that shit was 7th century.
Yeah, I'm going way back.
7th century. That's 711. Moors. This is 9th century, which is the 800s.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just agreeing with you where as far as the origin of the word, when they were still referred to as Slavics, you know what I mean, for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. So these are your slaves. The Slavic people are your slaves. Where did the term slave come from? Just look the shit up. Nothing in here says anything about Africa or black people at all, because Slavs were often forced into slavery in the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, last time I checked, was way before anybody came out of Africa. Mm-hmm. Okay, and what happens is, watch this, the Virginia Company. Go research.
The Virginia Company was an English trading company chartered by King James I on April 10th, 1606, with the object of colonizing the eastern coast of America. Maritime transport.
Okay. So now we understand what it was. Cash crop, timber, and tobacco. Cotton not involved yet. There's no cotton yet. So we don't get the picture this picture we just seen. We hundreds of years we see this ain't even them yet. That's not even them yet. This is Virginia Company. Watch it right here. The Colonial Project.
The Colonial Project is ultimately about justifying the occupation and exploitation of indigenous land and the maintenance of unequal relationships between non-native and native. It is of paramount importance that the colonized remain contained as objects of the colonial. Hold on. Let's run that back for y'all because I was reading a little fast. It is of paramount importance that the colonized remain contained as objects of the colonial state.
Now, this is what I was trying to tell the brother earlier. Stay with me. Watch this now. The Virginia Company, I showed you that the Colonial Project was the first idea of the Virginia Company, the Philadelphia Company, because the North Indian Company, which was a European company, just started getting tea a couple hundred years after this now from India. Columbus was trying to find India. They've been going to India. They know where India is, exactly where India was at. that Moorish brother showed Columbus how to get over here. And we had time next time we get on the Moors and how they knew that gold was over here too. Okay. So for this purpose though, let's stick with this right quick. So now you have the Colonial Project. Guess when they came in with the Colonial Project? Guess who they ran into? Him, Metacon. You know what Metacon is? Metacon led one of the most coastal wars of resistance in New England history. His name was King Phillips. This is King Phillips War, 1675 to 76. Metacon was the second of, I can't say his name, a Wampanoag. And I was trying to tell him, but he just would have waited 5 more minutes. I would have showed him about Wampanoag. This is his people right here. But forget the slave shit he saw. These are your people. They were fighting against the European colonizers. And because
they don't want that, man. They want the victim story. They want the black African booty scratcher. Like we started, they want the booty scratcher. They want the booty scratcher.
Look though, Massachusetts and Rhode Island. This was his war. Now I bet y'all haven't heard this right here, and this is a whole Native American, a whole Indian, what do you want to call him, right? This is him right here. Now he kept them off of them. This is called the 100-year Indian War, and there's so many skirmishes. But what happened is the ones who lost went to what's called labor camp. This is what you see our people working in labor camps, not slavery, labor camps, because they were what? What were they? POWs. They were prisoners of war. So stop with the slavery stuff and go. So
look, let me break this down. Let me break this down.
Study some more.
But let me break this down. It's like how you said. It's like you said, taking the picture. If they could take right now, there's more people in prison than there was in so-called slavery. If they take right now and say, oh, in 2023, y'all was a bunch of prisoners. Y'all was a bunch of gangbangers. Y'all was a bunch of fools and rappers and hip hop. You feel what I'm saying? I get exactly what you're saying. You take a snapshot of the smut and you smear it all through and say, this is what you are. You feel what I'm saying? But it's such a small number that didn't even happen.
Think of the craziest hood you've seen or stayed in or been around. If people just took pictures of those hood and the potato chip bags on the ground and the Snicker bags on the ground, the dirty Pampers and the baby running around, it's not a no, and said, this is slavery in 2023. But they show that picture in 2067. Like, damn, that's slavery? Yeah, these were slaves. Look how they lived. Look at the dirty grounds and the baby with the snotty nose, and like, look at how they're living. These are slaves. So in contrary, they take pictures like this right here and flash across the screen and put you under a spell to think, oh, those are slaves. No, they just at work. I promise you they're at work, y'all. They're just at work. They're at work. So why the kids ain't in school? There wasn't no daycare. Ain't no daycare. There were no school for them. They didn't have no school to go to. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Now we can get into black slave owners since we're dealing with slaves. Anthony Johnson, 17th century. Look at the time frames too. Elizabeth Skeleton. Look at her. Okay. William Ellison. These are Negroes, only more Negro. William Ellison was an African-American slave owner. William Ellison was an African-American. I got you, bro. Back on.
All right.
In the year 1790, he was born into slavery, but he eventually bought his freedom as well as his family. Now they say 1790. Watch how we catch this in the live right quick. Watch this. Watch this now. 1790, he was born into slavery. Oh boy. Civil rights, 1700s. Hold on. But they crowd our mind with so much of this black stuff, man, to where we just don't even bother. We just don't even bother doing the goddamn research, and we just go with the flow. I'm sorry. Crispus Attucks, civil rights leader. Crispus Attucks kicked off the whole civil rights shit. All right. Then you want to get into Prince Hall? You want to get into all the other stuff? These people walking around free as hell. These people right here were just the worker bees. Let's take pictures of the workers and make people think that these were slaves. They were not slaves. They were what's called in prisons of war, I'm sorry, POWs, prisons of war, and they were put on what's called labor camps. Those labor camps, you were not going anywhere. Because 9 times out of 10, these little people right here, the condition and how they teach these people, you know you're a slave, right? They be like, what's a slave? You. Oh, I'm a slave. Yeah, I didn't know. Because these kids were not being taught that they were Muscogee, or they were Wampanoag, or they were Crow, or they were Powhatan. Nobody was teaching them this stuff. This picture is in the 1800s. Remember, they were shipping Negroes not from Africa in the 1800s, but shipping them from Maryland, DC, Baltimore, Boston, New York, and bringing them down to the South. So this could be 3 different families right here. She could be from goddamn Boston. He could be from Virginia. And they got together and had these kids.
So that goes to what I was saying when it cut off. I was saying they could go right now and take pictures of guys in Cook County, LA County, Rikers Island, dudes in the slums getting chased by police and say, look at y'all. Y'all was all whatever word they want to make up for that. You feel what I'm saying? 200-300 years from now.
Yeah, for sure. But family, we have to be cognitive of looking at time periods and be careful not to lump everything together, man. We got to stop lumping it like everything happened at one time. It did not. We have to study what's called world history. And a lot of our people don't know world history, meaning you only can talk about what happened in America at one time, or you only can talk about what happened in Persia or Africa at one time. You can't talk about what happened around the world at the same time. If I tell you what was going on in the world in 1776, your ass will have no idea. All you know is the Revolutionary War in America happened. You don't know nothing about France, what was happening in France. You know shit what was happening down in Grenada. You know nothing what was happening over in Italy. You have no idea what's happening around the world in no given time period, and that makes you susceptible for a motherfucker like me to tear your shit apart. Because you don't study. I'm talking to the masses of people. Y'all have to slow down and stop being such a hurry to be right all the time. And this is what we got now on social media. A bunch of fools who just want to be right all the time. No, because they said. Start asking them, what year was that, bro? Who was it? And where were they? Ask those 3 questions to anybody y'all here talking, even in the chat. Put it in the chat. The next live you on with anybody, I don't care who it is. Challenge them. When was that? And where was it? And what year was it? Silence in the room, right? Even you get into a debate with somebody, heated argument with somebody, you wait till they finish. You ask them, what year was that and where was it? Who was it? And watch how quiet they get. Because motherfuckers don't study. They just talk. They be so excited to give you information about something they just seen yesterday. And they be scrambling and tussling trying to give you information till they meet a motherfucker like me that ask them the real hard questions that y'all don't know how to ask yet. I'll ask those hard questions. Slavery. Let's change the narrative. What if they weren't enslaved? What if because of the 100-year Indian War, these Native Americans were talking, our whole point, bro, was talking about Native Americans and Indians in America on the East Coast. What if everybody, the brother mentioned earlier, what if they really lost the war to Europe because Europe had fire sticks or weapons and we didn't have no fucking weapons? And what if Britain and France and Spain, what if they partnered with local tribes and gave the local tribes guns and ammunition and had the local tribes run amok on the other tribes and told the local tribes, whoever y'all captured, you can pillage all their shit. Just bring us the bodies. You put them to work, because that's what happened. It's exactly what happened. Other tribes were fighting other tribes. The bigger tribes, just like in Africa, the bigger tribes in America was squandering the smaller tribes. And they was knocking their ass off for the Europeans. The 5 civilized tribes, y'all heard the 5 civilized tribes? But look at who they are. The 5 civilized tribes did that. 5 civilized tribes. And these
I want to say something here.
Tribes,
I think what's going on here that you got to understand is for the brother and for people, you know what I mean, that's still coming into the light, they have to understand how to separate the groups in the geographies and the times to understand the world history. That's why they have to understand nationality. You know, when you kept throwing around the word black, he was talking about groups that didn't have nothing to do with each other. Some of these groups were in Mexico. Some of these groups were in Virginia. Some of these groups were in Africa. You feel what I'm saying? This is where it gets, you got to understand which group was where, which country was dealing with what. You got to understand nationality. You got to, like you said, you got to break down who's what and where's why and the time and the dates and the names.
If you don't,
you're just gonna go everywhere.
I respectfully agree with you, but anybody asking to come over here on Chrome TV Network, especially with me, this is college level. We're not in primary, elementary anymore. And I told the brother, maybe that demonstration was great for first to second grade, or first to third grade, and that's cool. So maybe bring your brother on here. Maybe your brother in middle school. We can talk to him a little bit better in middle school. I don't know. But when I'm on here, Crom, Crip, or Inky, we're talking college level information. That means you have to do dissertations and research, people. You have to do in-text citations, APA format. If you don't know how to do that, then I don't want to be allowed nobody. Because at this point, I've been doing this for over 10 years. Crom, I'll tell you, Crom was my student. He'll tell you that. He was there with me in the room with 3 people teaching every Sunday. 26,000 years of information I was giving out back then. The shit y'all talking about now in 2023, I was discussing that shit in 2020. I mean, in 2020 and in 2016, 2015. That's why half the time I don't go live as often because it's like, y'all ain't talking about shit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Bible. Let's go off the planet. How many of y'all can talk about the Galactical Empire and the Galactical Federation? Let's talk about.
Hold on, we still on the Indigenous Americans, African
relationship. But I'm making a point though, bro. The point I'm making is this shit is so finite. The information is so finite, and I can't deal with the excuse. Well, man, people just wait. Well, listen, don't come on this channel, especially when I'm on here. You see M.O.I. going live. Just if you need to be coddled, and somebody to hold your hand to information, don't come over here. Respectfully, and Crom already know. Don't come and mess with me. I don't have time for it. And I don't even get fired up. I'm not fired up now. I'm just agitated at this docile ass information. We have unlimited resources to do some real research. If we stop trying to hop on social media every damn day and get followers and took 2 weeks or 1 month to really actually study and then present your information, it'll go a lot better for people. The people are just so excited to get on here and just talk. They just learned about the fucking Cherokees yesterday. Cherokees having a real tribe. Quit saying Cherokee. It's a made-up tribe. Talk about the Coweta. The Coweta and the Blackfoot are the amalgamation of Cherokee. Blackfoot is made-up tribe. Talk about the real tribes.
No, that's no, you 100 on that one.
And people can't talk about the real tribes. People can't talk about the Woodland period, which is 1000 BC. Now we can talk about some American history if y'all really want to deal with it. North America pre-Columbian history. We can really get down to the nitty-gritty and stop naming these newly made tribes. We can talk about the Mississippian culture if y'all for real. If y'all really want to learn it, and talk about the Dakota, and then go to Illinois, and then deal with the pyramids. The pyramids in Illinois bigger than the ones in Egypt. Yep. The pyramids, and this is a tribe, by the way. Illinois is a tribe. It's called the Illinois tribe. They're akin to the Washita and the Oshitush. Yeah, see, I say Washita and Oshitush and Nashitush, you don't know what I'm talking about no more. Because you hearing Blackfoot and Cherokee. That's not what we're doing over here.
But I remember we were talking about that. When I was talking about the Washita, you said we got to get to the Oshitush at the top of the now. Remember we was talking about that. How they call the bottom of Illinois Little Egypt. Yep. And then what they call it Little Egypt right here. So yeah, that's real facts right there. Going all the way back.
$1 bill.
And that goes back to when you were talking about how the Middle East, how they did the 3 cities that was the Mecca there. So this Mississippian culture goes back. But that goes back to what we explained to the brother, different nationalities. See, you can't take for granted your knowledge of them names. That's why I said the name is worth more than gold. Your knowledge of the names puts you right on deck with that. You get what I'm saying? When we're talking about the Washita, the Oshita, or you saying Illinois, and we both know what we're talking about, it's almost like that's what I call the Black Illuminati. The other person can be sitting right next to us. He doesn't know what we're talking about. You feel what I'm saying?
No, and I agree with you. So when I show you the Mississippi culture, y'all need to write this down. When I show you the Mississippi culture, and we ain't got to the Natchez yet. I was gonna talk to the brother about the Natchez too. There's people in Suffolk, Virginia, come out of Mississippi. We didn't get to the Natchez yet, right? 1539, 1540. This is what the Soto scene. We came on the exploration. He came through Georgia. He came through Alabama, came through Mississippi, and he went out west and stopped in Texas. The Soto sets up the plight for the Alamo later. That's how Spain got them. Spain owned Louisiana. Spain sold it to France. Louisiana purchased. No, nigga, Spain had it first. Spain had all that first. Spain had everything from the Mississippi River all the way up to Canada. France had Canada. And under the Treaty of Paris, Britain got a portion of chunks of the Midwest. Y'all got to do some research, man. Y'all got to do American history before y'all come talking. Y'all don't know American history yet. And I'm not talking down or talking slight. I'm telling y'all what y'all have to understand. We talk about the Mississippian culture is known as building pyramid mounds, they call them. This right here, where it go? This right here. This is the American pyramid. And I'm covering the dollar up. I'm calling the I for it because that I throw y'all off. Right there. That's an American pyramid. You know what that pyramid called? It's called a truncated pyramid. It's called a truncated pyramid. And the truncated pyramid in Illinois is bigger than the ones in Egypt. I'm going to show you right quick, and I'm going to let it alone because it's getting late. Monk's Mound. Okay. Let's go to Monk's Mound for a second. Let's pick up and read. I'll read it to y'all. Monk's Mound is the largest pre-Columbian earthwork in the Americas. I mean, all three of them. Don't give me no South America, nothing. I don't want to hear about South America. It's the pre-Columbian and in the Americas, in the largest pyramid in Mesoamerica. That means Mexico, that means South America, that means all the Americas. It's the biggest one. The beginning of construction was around 900 to 955 CE, located in Chocolate Mounds. This is Chicago, Illinois. The mound size was calculated in 1988. This is the size. This makes Monk's Mounds roughly the same size as the base pyramids in goddamn Giza. Y'all better quit playing, man. Get out of Africa and come over here. Okay.
I want to say one. I want you to do one thing before we wrap it up.
The perimeter is larger than the pyramid of the sun. This is the famous one in South America. Everybody gets excited about.
That's the famous one in Mexico. Yeah.
One in Chicago, bigger than that. Unlike the Egyptian pyramid, built of stone, the platform mounds almost literally a basket transported clay soil. They're telling you how they built it. It's called the Mississippian culture. These are the mounds, and right in Chicago, and it runs all the way down the river. You know where it ends up at? Watch this. Poverty Point, Louisiana. It goes all the way down to Poverty Point, Louisiana, because Poverty Point has more pyramids down there. Built by us before there was a goddamn Moorish anything, before there was a goddamn African out of Africa anything. We give too much credit away to other people without understanding our own history. Here in North America, we don't study American history the right way. We get the little pilgrims and the 13 colonies and then slavery, and that's it.
Poverty Point?
Yep, Poverty Point. 1700 BC to 1100 BC, because in BC you count down, you don't count up, you count down. It's old, real old. And you know who helped construct it?
Now I want to say something so we can wrap it up, because it's getting late for me too. Now the brother said, man, y'all talking that West Coast deep stuff, you know, I'm sticking to the East Coast. Well, the Gullas is known to be an East Coast tribe. I want you to type this in so we can end this to show you that we're on the same page. G-U-A-L-E.
Oh, Gullah? I said Gullah?
No, G-U-A-L-E. It's how you spell it, like the French way, like the more, you know.
Oh, Gold, yeah.
No, that's G-A-U-L. I'm saying G-U-A-L-E.
That's what I put in there, bro.
Okay. Like Guale?
Yeah.
It should say a Mississippian civilization.
Of course they are.
G-U-A-L-E? Huh?
G-U-A-L-E was a historical Native
Okay,
American chieftain of the Mississippi culture. They were part of that culture.
No, but that's all I'm saying. So we on the same page. While he's trying to divide it from the East Coast and the West Coast, we're not talking about Mexico. We're not talking about them over there. We're not talking about way over there. We're talking about right here, your black, so-called black history, so-called slavery history.
And what I was trying to show was,
I feel like that was a smoking gun to go with what you're saying, because you're showing the mounds, and I'm showing even these Gullah people who you probably gonna say, well, you know, Virginia and all that, bro. I'm saying, nah, I ain't with you, bro. We part of that too.
And see, you really can't get into the Pamunkey and all the people in Virginia until you deal with the people of the Sea Islands. And the Sea Islands is all Jackal Island, all the shit off Savannah, off the coast of Georgia, all those people. You got to deal with those people first before you even get into Virginia, because those people were out there first. And I'm trying to show you the beginning from the Mississippian culture, like it just said right here, from the goal where they come from, all the way down to the who? Yamasee. All the way down to the Yomacraw. Yes, sir. So listen, man, we appreciate y'all tonight, man. Hanging in there. Appreciate y'all. Unfortunately, brother, I hope you be all right. I don't know. I don't know him personally, so it was nothing personal for me. I just wanted to talk real quick and show him more than what he was talking about. That's all. I mean, I ain't mean no harm. If you listening or somebody want to get a message back to the brother, I ain't mean no harm. I just got added to the group today on Facebook, bro. The new group that they in. They just rubbing their eyes and waking up right now. So, and I respect that. So I'm not gonna say I don't say too much in groups like that, because again, we teaching a little bit more advanced information on this channel. And for those who tapped in, I appreciate y'all. Okay. Crip Jesus, appreciate you. We see you Sunday, bro.
Yes, sir. You know, I can't, I'm about to get ready right now. Yes, sir.
Hey, man, listen, each and every Sunday, man, tap in. Each and every Sunday, Chrome TV Network.
Sunday school. Amen.
Crip Jesus dropping the heat this Sunday, 7 o'clock. Tap in. What are we talking about, bro?
Oh, the attack on black masculinity.
That's
black
right.
masculinity under attack.
That's right. Pull that right quick. Listen, so this Sunday, bro, going in at 7 o'clock, we're talking about the attack on black masculinity. This Sunday, you've been warned.
That flyer is so hot, man.
Boy, this gonna be good. Boy, I can't wait for this right here, boy. Ooh, yeah, I can't wait for this right here. Come with it. Hey, Crip, man, I definitely appreciate you. And I myself, where's my flyer at? I'm gonna be doing a little piece too. I can't find it on here, so whatever. I'm going to be doing something on Sunday, earlier on Sunday before we go live with you. I'm talking about Moses. I'm actually exposing Moses as I'm talking about that magical mountain he was on too. I'm doing a whole series on a magical mountain, the same mountain that everybody went to. Who was in that mountain? I'm going to show you what God and Moses was bringing to the Israelites out of the Bible. So I'm going to do that first for Sunday school, and then we got Crip Jesus on at 7 o'clock. Can't wait. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Thanks for tapping in, bro.
See y'all Sunday.
Peace. All right, listen, man. Again, to the brother, I didn't mean no harm. I just wanted to talk and say my piece and show him that there's more information out there. I just wanted to really add value to what we were talking about. But, you know, in true nature, I guess he got upset and said, fuck that. I wasn't even fussing with the brother. I was just like, all right, let me show you more than what you had on your PowerPoint. So he probably won't be back on here again. It's all good, man. But, you know, appreciate y'all. In the words of Russell Simmons, thank y'all for coming out.